On second down, Hurts fakes. He's back. He's looking. He is going deep. He wants Devontae Smith. He has it. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown! Devontae Smith beat Rodgers. That is a 79-yard touchdown pass from Hurts to Devontae Smith.
And it's a perfectly thrown ball by Jalen Hurts. He dropped a dime.
I feel like we should open to let the good times roll today. The Eagles win. The Eagles win. Jalen Hurts. Is that what you all wanted to see? Didn't it feel like that's what he should have said after the game last night? Is that what you all wanted to see? The Sports Bash live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Pete G is my on-site producer. Josh Henning is back in the Ocean Casino Resort studios. You out there. It was maybe one of Jalen Hurts' best performances of his career, right? I mean, that was maybe the best game that he ever played yesterday. Maybe not. I don't know. There were moments in the game that were frustrating, but he threw a couple dimes where you were just like, all right, why don't you do this more often? Like, do we really have to fool around with all this other nonsense? There's a method to the madness that I want to get into today as we get ready for a Monday edition of the Sports Bash. We are live, as always, on a Monday at the Fanatic Sportsbook right here at the Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. And, man, what a beautiful day outside. Happy to be here and get you ready for what should be a fun day where the Eagles beat a Vikings team. What was the moment in the game? That's what I want to find out. What was the moment in the game for everybody out there? Because I have a moment in the game that I thought when this happened, the Eagles would win the game. Now, it got a little dicey at the end, I will say. That catch by Hockenson, and Hockenson's pretty mad about this, right? He believes that he caught that ball, and he thinks that, you know, that was a big moment in the game. And he's not wrong. That was a big moment in the game if Hockenson catches that ball. However, there was a lot of moments in the game that you can probably pick from as that was the game-changing moment in the game. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. What was the moment in the game yesterday? Because I got a moment in that game yesterday that made me feel like the Eagles were going to win the game. But I guess the big question is, the first question is, what did that game do for everybody yesterday? What did that game do for everybody yesterday? Did that Jalen Hurts performance make you kind of feel better about the big picture of this team? In other words, they might not look good on offense every single week. They might not be this explosive offense every single week. But when they have to, this has kind of been the MO of the Eagles, right? Is that what you all wanted to see? When they have to, you know it's in them. Is that good enough? Is that good enough that when it's needed, they can pull it out? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Is that good enough for everybody? When they need to, they can. Is that good enough for everybody out there? Are you okay with that?
I guess so, but I'm still going to have to take the temperature every week. I mean, we're going to have to take the temperature of this team every week.
Of course. I mean, that's the way we are as fans. You take it every week based on what you see. But do you now know deep down inside that, okay, they struggle, they got a new play caller, we got this, we got that. I think they still got some offensive line problems that we can certainly talk about. That needs to be figured out.
And the run game, they just cannot run the ball. I mean, they gave Saquon, 18 carries, but he still didn't amass over 50 yards. And for Tank Bigsby, he had the longest run of the day.
Well, I will say this. I'm glad you brought up the run game because I think we're at a point now where they have to flip the script. They now need the pass game to set up the run, whereas last year the run game kind of set up the pass. They were a run-first team. This year it feels like they got to flip the script a little bit. Like they almost have to say, we're going to throw the ball against you and then open it up so that we can get some room in the run game because there's just no room in the run game. There's still like 8 in the box. They're still just sending guys all over the place at you where you have to now – there's no running lanes. There's no place to go.
My worry is why are there no running lanes? Is it a Saquon problem? Is it an offensive line problem?
I don't know if it's I think the offensive line is still like Brett Toth yesterday was terrible. I mean, he had a awful day yesterday. Brett Toth was awful yesterday. And then he goes down. Juergens goes down. Then Toth is playing center. Fred Johnson was in the game. I mean, you just had all sorts of issues with the offensive line again yesterday. Now, that being said, Jalen Hurts, 19 of 23, 325 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. It's his most yards in a game since 2002. He only had 1 300-yard passing game at all last season. So this is by far his best game in a long time, maybe one of the best games of his career. I don't know. I'm interested to see what everybody thinks out there about this particular performance, because if you watch that game yesterday at halftime, you're saying, okay, this team, I'm not all that impressed. The offense isn't all that good. I'm in another situation where I'm questioning this offense. Social media is blowing up about how bad the offense is. The offense stinks.
Well, third down was terrible. 3 for 10 on third downs.
There was a tweet yesterday from our buddy Geoff Kerr.
They got to get better with the 3 and outs. The third downs are terrible.
So you watched that game yesterday and didn't say, Eagles offense is back, baby.
I can't. No, I can't. Just cannot. Well, and not to mention Carson Wentz.
And I'm not saying you're wrong.
Carson Wentz was just. You said Jalen Hurts, that was the best game of his career.
Possible.
That was probably Carson Wentz's worst game of his career.
Well, the moment in the game for me has to do with Carson Wentz.
Oh, good.
So
there's about 6 of them to choose from.
I want to see if anybody is
all
board with me on this one. 609-403-0973. Our buddy Geoff Kerr. If you don't follow Geoff, you're missing out. He throws out nuggets all game on. Not Nick Nuggets, Harry, but just Kerr nuggets. Geoff Kerr throws out the greatest nuggets all day long when you're watching the game. So you got to follow him if you're somebody that likes to follow social media during the game. But at one point during the game yesterday, he tweeted out that the Eagles on third down in their last 10 quarters were 3 for 25 on third down. I mean, awful.
That's not good.
So how many people out there watched the game and said, fool's gold? How many people watched the game and say, made me feel better? How many people watched the game yesterday and said, I need to see more?
Where I'm at is I need to see more. I mean, it's much easier to come into this week, ending that 2-game losing streak, winning the game on the road, but you still need to see more. And it's much easier to stomach that rather than going into this week losing 3 in a row.
Geoff is watching on YouTube today. You can watch the show on the YouTube channel. Hey, everybody, get in the YouTube channel. You can get in the stream. You can chat in the stream. It's a lot easier to chat in that way, or you can text 609-403-0973. You can message us on the app on your phone. But if you're watching on YouTube, it's a lot easier to just kind of put your comments in the chat. It pops right up on the screen for us. Geoff says it's a long season, and yesterday was a must-win game. Eagles haven't lost 2 regular season games to the Giants since 2007, so a win on Sunday and head into the bye at 6-2 to regroup. We'll get into the Giant game a little bit, but I agree. We talked about it on Friday's show, and I asked Sal Paolantonio if he thought that this was, I didn't say must-win game, wasn't the way I worded it, but it was make or break. What, right? I said, was this a make or break game? And he said, Sal Pal said absolutely that he thought it was a make or break game. Absolutely, he said. And I agree that it wasn't a must-win. Like, I don't think they had to win the game, per se, but I think they had to look good. Like, I don't think they could go through another week in that locker room of, we're having trouble doing this, we're having trouble doing that. A.J. Brown's not involved. Devontae Smith's not involved. You got the 2 most important guys involved yesterday, and not because you were forcing it to them, because that was the flow of the game.
Right, exactly.
That's why, to me, that game yesterday worked, is because the flow of the game called for them. You didn't force it to them. Like, you know, the big play of the game is the 4th down. It's a 4th down play. That's one of the big plays of the game where Jalen Hurts just says backyard football. A.J. Brown runs a 3-yard route and just stops. And then he's just kind of standing there, and Jalen Hurts is like, yo, just go, man, go. And then he just beats Isaiah. Isaiah Rodgers had a tough day at the office yesterday.
He was toast.
He had a tough day. He was toast Jenkins.
Yes. But another play was that third and 9 play to seal the game was Brian Flores, put 8 guys in the box.
Now look at this.
They knew the pressure was coming Jalen adjusted to it.
Right.
And they sealed the deal.
So yesterday, Brown, 4 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdown catches. He makes the 4th down play, but I love the play that he scores the touchdown on because this is simple, man. This is where people talk all the time about their concepts or this, their route concepts are too basic. That's not their problem. The route concept that they ran on the touchdown is a basic inside route. He just gets inside the man, and the throw is a dime. It's right there. A.J. Brown, bang, catches it because he's just physically strong enough to get inside on his man. Like, we're acting like we need to reinvent the wheel on some of these route concepts. Like, no, you just got to run them better, and the throws need to be there. When Jalen had time to throw the ball, you could see that he's delivering it, bang, right on the spots where they need to be. So some of this stuff, I feel like we just blow it out of proportion because, you know, we see Baldy. And Baldy was on our show last week. And he said, look, they're running the same route concept 3 times in a row on 3rd down. But he said that wasn't the problem. Because I asked him, I said, well, just because they ran the same thing doesn't mean guys weren't open. And he said, I agree. There are guys open. There were guys open. They found them. Like, somebody texted me in the first half of the game yesterday. And the thing that he mentioned to me, let me go back to that text message if I can find it. I get a lot of text during the course of a game. So
I bet you do.
He says, Petula feels like Brian Johnson for one reason. This is how the Brian Johnson's offense fell apart. Constant blitzes and no counters. Okay, so we saw that during the Brian Johnson, that they were blitzing, and the Eagles had no blitz beaters. To which I said,
yesterday.
Well, yesterday, exactly. But in the first half of that game, they really weren't.
Yeah.
And I said, the quarterback is an issue. And he says, in which way? To which I said, he's holding the ball too long. He doesn't throw with anticipation. And in the first half, that was the problem. There were guys open, and he's not, you know, there's
aside from the first drive of the game for them.
The first drive of the game worked,
yeah.
Yes. There's a word that you hear, a phrase that you hear, a term that you hear in football called, you know, throwing a guy open. Meaning the guy isn't there yet, but you know he's going to that spot, so you're throwing him to where you want him to get to. You're throwing him open. Hurts has a tough time throwing people open. What he does a much better job of is putting the ball where it needs to be when there's a play that is called for him to throw. Hey, there's an inside slant, throw the ball here, bang. You hear Mike Quick during the broadcast all the time. That is a dime. He dropped a dime. And
so let me ask you this. When Devontae Smith says that play is there for us all game long.
It's there all day long.
Who is he directing that comment towards? Kevin Patullo or Jalen Hurts or combination? If that play's there all day long, who is he directing that towards?
That's a good question. Is he trying to get, like yesterday, Lane Johnson decided he didn't want to talk because he said, I don't want to say anything that's going to divide the locker room.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is there something from this game that, you know, well, there's some talk about A.J. Brown. He scores the touchdown and whatever he might have said, just throw me the ball.
Right.
So I don't know if that's Devontae Smith's way of just saying, hey, everybody, don't panic. Like, if we just run this offense the way it's supposed to be run, we're fine. Like, we executed it today, and you saw the results.
And to be fair, against Denver, against the Giants, Jalen did miss some deep balls, right? They were there.
They were there. The deep ball that he hit for 70-plus yards to Devontae yesterday, that same play was there, and he missed it last week.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What does everybody think? Josh, what's the text board rocking and rolling today? 609-403-0973. We'll get text board here in just a second. Our first reaction to the Eagles is brought to you by Sea Isle, First Bank of Sea Isle City. This season, score big with First Bank of Sea Isle. From savings to mortgages, we're on your team, helping you reach the end zone. First Bank of Sea Isle City, your hometown bank, your winning play. That's our Eagles' first reaction, the win over the Minnesota Vikings. Josh, text board looks like it's pretty active today.
Yeah, I wanted to try to go in chronological order the best we can here. Joe from Williamstown says, hard to blame Barkley. The offensive line cannot run block. There is nowhere for Barkley to go.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's blaming Barkley.
But I will say
18 carries, 44 yards.
It's more than just the offensive line being injured or different. There's more to it. I'm convinced now.
There's not a lot of running room there.
There's not a lot of running.
I don't know. I mean,
but you cannot just say 2,000 yards last year.
Casey
this
Joyner.
Is just
Casey
way
Joyner
different.
said on either Tuesday's or Thursday's show that he is watching the tape, and what he sees is that Barkley's not making people miss like he was last year.
Okay, see, that's more.
Did anybody hear Casey Joyner say that and disagree with them, and then watch the game yesterday and say, you know what?
So his vision's not there as it was last year?
He just see, and Josh, I don't know if you heard Casey say that. I don't know if you were like intently listening when he said that last week, but he said it on Tuesday and on Thursday.
Well, I remember him saying it in part because of the fact that for me, guys, I was kind of looking at it like, when he said that, I was wondering, is he saying that because Barkley is maybe like, I don't know what you call it, less than he was last year, or maybe he's got a little fatigue, or was Casey saying it's just like a general observation? Because we've mentioned numerous times, but the problem with the offensive line.
That's what he said the tape showing.
Yeah, you can't tell me that Mekhi Becton is the difference between 2,000 yards last year to now less than 3 yards a carry.
Well, it's not just Mekhi Becton, but Baldy did say that they're really missing Becton, and he said it's not that Steen's not doing a good job, it's just that the push that Becton gets as opposed to Steen. So maybe Steen's winning the battle, but his push is only pushing the guy 2 yards off the ball, whereas Becton might be pushing his guy 5 yards off the ball.
But a game like yesterday when Juergens comes out and Brett Toth has to come in at center, and Toth's getting blasted off the ball. I mean, Toth looked horrible in the game yesterday. How am I supposed to run the ball when my center is basically a lame duck?
Yeah, Toth was bad yesterday. I was watching the game last night, and I just kept hearing Matt Hennessy's name because he was in at center for San Francisco because somebody got hurt for them. So he had to go in the game, and he was a big part of their drive with a couple of key blocks. And I said, Matt Hennessy, the Eagles had him in camp last year, and they cut him.
Right, so it kind of makes you wonder, what would this team look like if they would have reloaded the depth of the offensive line better? Because, Dickerson, he's been injured this year. Lane Johnson's been injured this year. And guess what? Tyler Steen, he had 2 plays yesterday where he did not look great. Remember, he jumped off sides on the tush push at one point.
Yeah. All right, let's rip through some more here because I see the text board is definitely jamming right now.
Chris chimes in and says, Mike, for some reason, the Eagles are not calling the RPO game like they were last year when they were so successful. I think Hurts only has 3 rushes in 3 games. It could open things up with the RPO for Barkley, just like Lamar Jackson does for Derrick Henry and vice versa. That's from Chris.
Yeah, the RPO hasn't been a part of the offense seemingly for like 2 years now, or 3 years, really. I mean, it seems that has –
since Steichen.
It really seems that they have phased the Jalen Hurts RPO. The best he was on the RPO was the year with Sanders.
Well, I was going to say, that year Steichen was the play caller.
The year he had Miles Sanders, I said before, he makes the right decision on the RPO every single time. Every time. He makes the right decision every single time. Like to give it to Sanders and let him run, or to keep it and run it himself. He made the right decision every single time, it felt like that year. But that RPO game has kind of gone away.
Nick from Galloway chimes in and says, guys, I feel better about the offense, but Patullo is clearly terrible. The Eagles' talent and Jalen Hurts won that game yesterday. That's from Nick in Galloway.
I mean, if you think that they just went off script and did everything themselves, now you could say on that 4th and 4 play that they did kind of go off script, but, I mean, the rest of the game, I'm pretty sure they were running what was being called.
Yeah, there's probably only 3 plays in the entire game where they went off script, right?
And they were the big ones.
They were 3 of the biggest plays, right? So is it are we looking at the Eagles going off script as a good or bad thing then?
Last year they tried to go off script and it didn't work. Not last year,
2023
on the Brian Johnson thing. That was the one play in Seattle where they ran their own play and it got intercepted and returned for a touchdown. Listen, I mean, I think Kevin Patullo, and I talked about this last week, it doesn't mean he's not qualified for the job. I just don't know that he's the right guy at the right time here.
I think
that he needed more seasoning as a play caller, not for the defending Super Bowl champions.
Especially with a new offense, fairly new guys on the offensive line.
Well, again, the other problem is that, as we mentioned last week, Mike, it's not like there's a veteran guy on the staff who can, like, Patullo can lean on. It's not like, when Kellen Moore.
Sirianni should be that guy, really.
Well, the problem is the entire Sirianni tenure, Pete, the only time he's ever brought in anyone of legitimate experience from outside of his little circle was last year with Kellen Moore. Then Kellen Moore brought Doug Nussmeier to be the quarterback coach.
Well, I go back to he's got Stoutland here, and how much weight does Stoutland kind of have? I mean, we always just he runs the running game.
Right.
So he does have a guy of experience here in Jeff Stoutland.
Which
Stoutland
is ironic.
Is the run game coordinator.
Which is ironic because the run game is what's struggling right now.
Exactly, and I talked about it last week, that should we be looking closer at some of the decisions on the offensive line? They keep Brett Toth. A guy like Matt Hennessy was a veteran player who was playing last night and contributing. We've seen stuff like that where some of these backup offensive linemen are not getting the job done.
Yep.
And that hasn't been a problem for them in the past. It's usually been this guy goes out, next guy in.
Stoutland, you. Yeah.
And right now, some of these guys that they're keeping, Matt Pryor was here before. Did they keep him just because, hey, we're familiar with him, or was he really the best option? Brett Toth is obviously not the best option.
Terry from Galloway chimes in. He says, here's the deal. The NFL is such a week-to-week league. All I need is for the Eagles to make the playoffs. I don't care how it looks. I don't care about the seeding. I am confident in Jalen Hurts to turn up in the postseason. We've seen him do it before. He'll do it again, says Terry in Galloway.
Terry, that's probably the best text you've ever sent. I mean, I can't argue with it. I say that all the time. Like, I don't care what the win looks like. You could win 3-0. Just get a win. And then on the Sunday that you need to play your best, can you play your best? And the Eagles have proven that they can. I don't care if you win 3-0 in October. You better be able to do that in January.
What's the running game going to look like in December? That's my question.
That's the big question, is if you can't get the run game going, can you win by basically throwing the ball all over the yard in the snow? Remember the game last year they played in the NFC divisional round against the Rams. That game was in the snow. Can you chuck it all over the yard like you had to yesterday? Because there was a time in that game, and I say it seemingly weekly now, there's about 7 or so minutes left in that game, and the Eagles have the lead. And I said last year they would run the ball and this game would be over. And that did not happen yesterday because they cannot run the ball.
Let's squeeze in one more text here. Brandon from Dennisville says, yesterday made me feel bad about the offense, but I would still like to see more consistency in the flow and with the game plan doing better on the 3 and outs. Even with the passing yards and Hurts' high completion percentage, it somehow still felt a little clunky, says Brandon in Dennisville.
It did look clunky for the
yeah.
first half of that game. Now, the second half of the game, Brandon, they had a touchdown. Now, they had a missed field goal, a touchdown, and then they ran the game out. So they had 4 possessions. 2 of them resulted in touchdowns. 1 was a missed field goal, and then the other one, that was it. The game ended. But in the first half of the game, the first drive was fantastic. Punt, punt, punt. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And the way they ended the half yesterday, what the hell was that?
I was so confused when it
Jalen
happened
took a
yesterday.
sack, and then they just ran it out.
Terrible. Keep the text coming. We're wide open today. Grayson's grades at 5 o'clock. McGarry on the other side. His Giants yesterday had an epic meltdown, and I'm all for it. Because I was watching that game a lot yesterday because the Cowboy-Washington game was no fun. So I flipped over to Giant Denver.
Yeah.
19-0. Here come the Giants. They look like a legit. Here they come. And
you texted me. You said, "Is Sean Payton serious?"
Well, he ran onto the field and got a penalty. He ran onto the 2-yard line and got a penalty late in that game, and cost them.
Yeah.
And then they ended up getting the ball back and winning that game by a point. But that game was awesome yesterday. A lot of fun. Giants are fun, man. I got to give it to the Dart kid. He made some mistakes late. He's missed a guy wide open yesterday that you got to connect on, but he's better than I give him credit for so far. I still don't think that Giant team's going to – they're 2-5, but at least they feel like they're moving in the right direction, which, by the way, at the beginning of the year, I said they would be a pain in the ass to play because their defense was going to be a pain in the ass, not their offense.
And Dallas, too. That looks like
Dallas
a team
is
that
interesting.
You're going to have to play them coming down the stretch.
Dallas is interesting, which I said at the beginning of the year. Everybody said, Dallas sucks. I said, I don't know about that. Might be Washington that stinks.
Yeah.
It's great. The NFL's great. It keeps us guessing. Keeps us on our toes. We're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. The state of the NFC East. Next, Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City. PressOfAC.com. Plus, Game 7 tonight If you're looking for Game 7, that will be on our sister station, Rock 104.1, after the Flyers game. So we'll pick that game up around the third inning. You'll be able to check in on Game 7. Right live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash.
Yes, GM supplier employee pricing with available 0% plus.
All right, 2:31. Text board's rocking and rolling, Josh. So let's compile a bunch of texts. We'll read them off at 3 o'clock. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. As we shift over to the Eagles' win over the Minnesota Vikings, the NFC East was wild yesterday. Yeah, that Eagles win, and some people are texting in that if Carson Wentz isn't the quarterback, that they might lose that game. They might be right about that.
Could be
I
true.
mean, he was terrible at times. Now, he didn't play awful the whole game. He made a couple plays with his legs. It looked like vintage Wentz for a couple of moments there. But then the interception that he threw was awful.
The
one
bad was really bad.
The bad was really bad. I thought the moment in the game was when Jalen Carter folded him like a sweater, and he ripped him.
That was on the Jalen Hunt pick six.
The interception return for the touchdown. It forces the interception, but I thought the rest of the game he was scared out of his mind to throw the ball.
I mean, he had an awful intentional grounding. He had the bobbled snap. He had the pick six. Then he had the other pick on like the 2nd and 27. 2nd and 26 or whatever it was.
Yep, the one out of the end zone. He just fired that one, wobbled duck down the field.
Yeah.
That got intercepted by Makuba. We had that. We had the Dallas-Washington game, and then the Giant meltdown yesterday, one of the epic losses in history. Let's bring in Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, and kind of take a look back at the NFC East and everything that happened there. Mike, we take a look at number one, the Jalen Hurts game. Everybody all year, their offense is clunky. It doesn't feel right, all the problems they have. And a couple of years ago, Jalen said, actually it was last year, he said, is that what y'all wanted to see? It's almost like he just stuffs these in his back pocket for when everybody's questioning them. Is this a sustainable offense the way they're playing?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that he says, is this what you want to see? Yeah, this is what we want to see, and we want to see it on a weekly basis. I don't think we're asking too much. I mean, that's your job to go out there, and it's amazing. You know, good things happen when you throw the ball down the field to the wide receivers. I mean, you see it in the NFL all the time, and when you get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, you know, all of a sudden I wake up watching the game and say to myself, oh, yeah, that's right. Devontae Smith is on the Eagles. I didn't know he was on the Eagles for the first 5 or 6 weeks. Yesterday I realized, hey, he's a pretty good wide receiver, and he's on the team. So, yeah, throw the ball down the field. Good things happen. And, yeah, this is what we want to see on a weekly basis, and that's not asking too much.
This feels like Saquon in New York, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is the kind of Saquon that we saw when he was with the Giants, you know, kind of running behind a struggling offensive line, and you get games like he's had this season, and then he'd break out for like 150 yards or 200 yards in a game, and then he'd go back to like, you know, 15 carries for 42 yards. This is exactly the Saquon Barkley that we saw in New York, you know, when he ran behind a struggling offensive line in New York, and he's running behind, you know, an offensive line that has not performed up to expectations with the Eagles this season.
Yeah, I know that they are really struggling to run the ball and get him going. He obviously had 18 carries yesterday, but still nowhere near a 100-yard game yet this year. Yesterday, Saquon Barkley, 18 for 44. He has fewer than 100 yards in all 7 games to start the season here. I want to get your take. There's some reporting going on about Brandon Graham, and that, you know, they're in talks of possibly, this seems like it's obvious that this is going to end up happening probably after the bye, you would imagine. But do you want to see Brandon Graham back? Would he help anything with this defense?
Mike, I'm stunned by this. How long has the guy been retired? You got to bring him out of retirement because you're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback. That's an indictment, to the defensive coordinator. It's an indictment to everybody on that Eagles defense. And you've got to reach back in time now and get Brandon Graham back out and put him on the football field. How effective is he going to be? Is he in shape? I think it's kind of like trying to buy a lottery ticket. I mean, what's next? Are we going to go get Bill Bergey back and put him at linebacker? I mean, who else are we going to bring? Who else are we going to raise from the dead and put out there? It's ridiculous.
Well, I tell you what, when I was a little surprised to hear it as well, that I can understand him being interested. I'm surprised, though, that it's been confirmed that the Eagles actually reached out to him. That's where the concerning thing, the surprising thing, I don't know if concerning is the right word, but the surprising thing to me is that the team felt desperate enough to call him.
Yeah, it's concerning because the team recognizes that their best option is a guy who's been retired and a guy, I think he had a really good season in his last year, but, a couple seasons before that, he was up and down. I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, why don't the Giants go get Lawrence Taylor, see if he can play? Put 56 out there on Sunday this week and see if he's like Y.A. Tittle. Let's put him at quarterback. It's ridiculous.
Now we're getting a little ridiculous with Y.A. Tittle. Your point taken. However, we'll see if the Eagles – I would imagine, because they're going to play the Giants this week coming up, and you're obviously not going to have Brandon Graham signed and playing in a game. But I thought that was interesting that probably, after – maybe during this week and then after the bye week, which is coming up here, let's get to the Giant game yesterday. 19-0 and 26-8, and then the next thing you know, that game falls apart, and some people are wondering, how the heck did it happen? Well, Mike, how the heck did it happen?
Yeah, good question, Mike. I'll take you through my day yesterday. I'm watching the game. Going in, I thought it was a tough spot for the Giants. I thought coming off a win off the Eagles, going out to Denver, Mile High, Bo Nix, Sean Payton. I said, this is a tough spot for the Giants. So I'm watching the game, and all of a sudden the Giants are up something ridiculous. What was it, 26-3 or something like that. I go out to get myself, I'm hungry. I go, the Giants got this in hand. Let me run up the street to the local Wawa. I get a little quesadilla. I come back with my quesadilla, ready to sit down and enjoy a Giant win. All of a sudden, it's 26-23. I'm like, what the hell happened in 5 minutes here? I left the house for a quesadilla. I had a win. Now I come back, and it's a life and death battle. And then you watch the game unfold, and I'll tell you a couple things, Mike. First of all, when Jackson Dart scored with 40 seconds left, I was rooting for them not to score at that point because I knew right away, boy, they scored too early. If he's ruled down and he scores on the next play, that takes another 20 seconds off the clock, and the Giants probably win the football game. So I'm like, oh, my God, even when he scored, I'm like, he scored too early. The second thing is, to me, Brian Dable, he's got to really watch himself. Now, this is the Giants and kickers. I've never seen a franchise having their kicker hurt all the time. Like, if the kicker can't stay healthy and we got to call on backups to continually kick in big games, and those backups fail to perform, well, that's ridiculous. You can lose one game because the kicker got hurt, but they basically lost yesterday because the kicker got hurt. They bring in a guy who misses 2 extra points, and you lose the game basically because of it. And as bad as the loss was, and it was an all-timer, what makes Giant fans like myself feel a little bit better, a little bit solaced, is we have a quarterback. I think Jackson Dart is the real deal. He comes down the field there in Denver on the road, Mile High, and, he did it against the Eagles. He does it on the road against Denver. We have a quarterback, so that's a little thing in our back pocket. But you're right. Terrible loss, but kind of cushioned a little bit because it's not a hopeless situation going forward. We have ourselves a quarterback.
I said before I wasn't a big Dart fan coming out of the draft. I felt like you can't really judge him on this season with Neighbors and the injuries there, but he has certainly been better than I would have given him credit for entering the season. I would like to see him play, actually, as an Eagles fan. No, I don't want to see him play with Neighbors because he might actually exceed. I wasn't a big Knicks fan coming out of college last year, and he played better than I thought last year. Now, he's been kind of up and down this year. We'll see. I mean, him playing as well as he did without Neighbors so far, I've been really surprised by that. But it looks like you're right. They might be in the right. They're going to be in a weird spot because they're probably not going to win a lot of games. But you're excited about the quarterback. Do you keep the quarterback with the coach together? That whole situation is going to be a tough spot for them to kind of be in here moving forward. But they lose to fall to 2-5. And then the other game, the Cowboys, are they actually the team that the Eagles should be most concerned about in the NFC East?
Well, the Cowboys offensively are an outstanding team, but defensively, I think they lack things defensively. And overall, if you look at it, I think still the Giants Cowboys situation, who's better, who's not. I'd like to see the Giants play the Cowboys again, this time with Dart at quarterback. So we'll see how that unfolds. But I think this is a big game coming up this week for the Giants and the Eagles. If the Giants want to do anything this season, they've got to win. They got to win in Philadelphia this Sunday. So if they want to, make a run at the playoffs, maybe save some guys' jobs, this game to me is a must-win for the Giants. If they don't win this game, they go to 2-6, and then you kind of, okay, let's see what we got here. Are we going to make changes at the end of the season? You win this game, you beat the Eagles for the second time in 3 weeks. You're 3-5. You got a little hope. You got a little bounce in your step. And for the Eagles, I think you're right. I mean, what people said about yesterday's game and Carson Wentz. Boy, if McCarthy's the quarterback, he's healthy enough to start at quarterback. Do the Eagles win that game? Or does Wentz doing what Wentz does, make key mistakes in key spots, like a pick six at the right time, sort of push the Eagles over the top? So to me, if the Eagles want to kind of get back their air of superiority, like the glow that they had about them, that the Giants knocked off them in the Meadowlands, last Thursday, I think this is a big game for the Eagles to beat the Giants and kind of reestablish themselves as an elite team in the NFC.
Well, the NFC was wild. NFC East, I should say, was wild. And the NFC in general has been just it is going to be so competitive to see what happens in this NFC. Obviously, you got all these teams all in the mix here in the North. You got Green Bay with Detroit and Chicago and Minnesota. All of them are at 500 or better. Tampa is 5-1. Carolina won for the third straight week to go to 4-3. Seattle, the Rams, the Niners, they're all winners this weekend. So the NFC stays very competitive. Mike, before we get out of here, the return of Joel Embiid played in a preseason game the other night and actually played pretty well. Cautiously optimistic. Should we let our guard down just a little bit?
No, keep the guard up. I don't know how. Look, it's great to see him play. It's great. Like, they're dropping these little breadcrumbs, like these little candy cones out there for us, right? Embiid's healthy, looks great. Oh, all of a sudden, Paul George, full participant in practice. Hey, if you look closely, can this team win 50 games? Hey, there's no doubt, Mike, when Embiid, George, and Maxey are out on the court with some of the other guys they have, this is a team that's capable of, maybe winning 50 games in a season. But we all know Joel Embiid is not going to play more than 50 games this season. And we all know he doesn't have what it takes to survive a 2 to 3 month grind from April to June to win an NBA championship. So, flip on the TV this week when they open the season. Enjoy the few bright moments. But overall, to me, the 76ers, because of the injury history, is a road that leads nowhere this season.
VJ Edgecombe looked very entertaining the other night. My observation was this: a much more younger and athletic crew. I don't know what Embiid's health is going to be. I am not going to sit here and say that I'm banking on that. But with or without Embiid, they at least have some athletic, fun guards that are, if Embiid's healthy, I think they would be, put it this way, if Embiid stays healthy, with the guards that they have, this could be a really good team. Are they a title contender? Probably not, but probably in the mix for a top 5 seed. Without Embiid, they would obviously be in trouble because they just don't have the size. But cautiously optimistic is what I took from the game Friday night. They open on Wednesday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, we'll continue to keep our attention on everything that's going on here. And, of course, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. PressOfAtlanticCity.com has plenty more on all the Philly sports scene. Mike, thanks, man.
All right, we'll see you guys down the road. Enjoy Game 7 tonight. The two best words in all of sports. We'll see you later.
That's right. It is tonight. And you can listen to Game 7 on our sister station, Rock 104.1. And McGarry's appearance is brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, serving South Jersey since 1911. Keeping your home comfort game day ready this season. It'll be Flyers and Kraken at 7 o'clock, followed by Game 7. So we'll get to Game 7 right around the third inning. I was listening to Game 7 last night. By the way, you can listen to the Flyers and Game 7 on the Rock 104.1 free mobile app. Last night I was in the car.
Shout out to the Flyers, by the way. Good win in overtime.
Noah Cates for a box of Tasty Cates.
Michkov still got benched in the final period, so that's
I was watching. Nuggets was at my house on Saturday night. We watched the whole Flyer game.
wow.
Yep.
That must have been the first time since probably Jeff Carter was in a Flyers
Start
jersey.
to finish, Flyer game. Yeah, so the Flyer game tonight on Rock 104.1 and the Rock 104.1 free mobile app, and then the Game 7 will take you right to Game 7 after the Flyers on 97.3 ESPN. 2 Monday Night Football games. 2 back-to-backers.
I do like that. I enjoy that.
You like the 7 and the 10?
Yes, way better than the concurrent same time games. 7 East Coast, 10 o'clock West Coast.
At Mike Gill Show, you can watch the show live, plus on the YouTube channel, at Mike Gill Show. Follow us there, subscribe. You can chat, live chat, all show long. We're just kicking it off on a Monday live at the Fanatic Sportsbook, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. When we come back, what about Brandon Graham? We'll see what the people at Mike Gill Show voted on bringing Brandon Graham back. That's coming up next. Now, it's not official, but I would be pretty surprised if Brandon Graham is not back. More Sports Bash coming up live from the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. At 2:53, let's update the poll question for everybody. We asked you, there was a report yesterday, Adam Schefter and others, and it has been confirmed the Eagles have reached out to Brandon Graham. Do you want to see Brandon Graham back? Should the Eagles call him? Would he help out the Eagles? Votes are in. It's 58-41. Which way are you going?
The state of the pass rush right now and that locker room, I'm going to say yes. Bring him back.
You're in. Josh?
Yep.
I'm out. I think the guy hasn't played it all this year. What is he going to really bring?
Well, I mean, the Eagles have – what do you mean? What kind of comment is that? The Eagles have gone down this road before, guys later in the season who didn't play all year. You know, and Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, they brought those two guys in who sat out, and those guys didn't come back until after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but the difference is that
Darius Smith didn't have any training camp.
Yeah, but to me, the difference is those guys, you're talking about guys who were staying in football shape. Brandon Graham was very overt saying he was losing weight to get out of football shape.
Well, that was the weird part. So the reporting has said that he has stayed in football shape in the event that something happened. So apparently he has been staying. Now, I have seen
But
Brandon
it hasn't
Graham.
had guys up in his face.
I have seen Brandon Graham. He does look like
weeks.
he looks smaller than his football playing shape. I will say that. But I would not be adverse for him to be back for one reason. I'll tell you why. I think the defense needs a veteran in that locker room.
Yeah.
And maybe they miss a guy like him and being that positive guy and keeping everybody together. We'll see. But they got to get help at that particular position. It is definitely something that they lack. Some extra pressure. And he's very good at setting the edge and helping out in the run as well.
Wentz takes the snap. He's looking. He's hit as he throws. It's intercepted. It's picked off. Running with the football down the sideline is Jalen Hurts for a touchdown.
Merrill Reese on the call. You heard it right here on 97.3 ESPN. That was a huge play in the game. Jalen Carter just blasted Carson Wentz, and then Wentz doesn't see Jalen Hurts.
I don't know how you miss a almost 300-pound linebacker.
Well, they showed it on the broadcast. Greg Olson kind of pointed it out. What happened in the pre-snap, there was only one linebacker, but they dropped Hunt from coverage or into coverage from the defensive end position. He dropped into coverage, so he wasn't there, but he got ripped. I mean, he got smoked on that play.
He did.
I mean, he did not have a chance. He got blasted, and it ended up being a 14-0 lead for the Eagles at that point. And then, they had a scratch and claw. Like, they won the game. The offense scored some points. They hit some big home runs. But was that game too close for comfort for people out there? We got a ton of text messages in hour one. We're going to read and react them right now. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Let's read and react to the first hour messages. Instant reaction to that Eagles win. Let's hear what we got.
All right, so we're just going to run through all of them, as many as we can get to here. So we're going to start with Steven Ventnor. He chimed in earlier, Mike. He says, the Eagles' defensive line played well. The linebackers did a good job in coverage underneath. And even they prevented Jordan Mason from getting loose in the secondary. DeJean kept Justin Jefferson in check. Still not clean offensively, but much better. If they could run the ball more effectively, we see a lot more of that play action, taking those deep shots, says Steven Ventnor.
Jeez, that was a novel.
I shortened it, actually.
The run game is definitely something that needs to be worked on. But what I do like is in the second half, it seemed that they were more willing to use the pass game to set up the run. They ran the ball a little bit better at times. Brett Toth had a tough day. There's no question about it. He got pushed and bullied, and they had a hard time running anything because guys were in the backfield. But they got to get that run game off the ground. But I think if you come out and throw the ball down the field a little bit, that should loosen up a little bit in the run game. That should give you some more lanes in the run game. If you're going to throw the ball with success early in the game, the defense is eventually going to say, well, we can't let you keep doing this, so we're going to have to now pull guys back.
And he mentioned Cooper DeJean. I mean, that strip he had of Jefferson.
That was one of the plays of the day.
That is what I need to see from Cooper this season. We haven't really seen many of those plays like we saw last year. That was awesome.
We got an anonymous texter who chimed in at 609-403-0970. Says, guys, I'm happy they got the W, but in my eyes, the Vikings lost the game more than the Eagles won it. One thing that's obviously worrying is with this run game. We don't have a real change of pace back there to mix in with Saquon and the passing game. It's the one thing I'm really worried about with Jalen. That's from an anonymous texter.
They do have Shipley. They just don't use him. He would be a change of pace kind of back. They just don't really use him in the offense in any capacity there. I will say this. They did get under center a lot more this week, and that was something that was pretty notable, that they got under center and definitely tried to, change that look up a little bit. But I definitely think that the problems in the interior of that offensive line are a challenge for the run game right now. Big time.
We got Jim and Williamstown.
Although, real quick, his point on that the Vikings lost that game more than the Eagles won the game. Do we all agree on that?
No.
No, I mean, the big plays killed him.
That guy, I mean, could we say if you had a competent quarterback, would we feel like that Minnesota would have been a more
like a Baker Mayfield type?
Yeah, anybody.
Well, that's more than competent. Mike's talking about like an above-average quarterback.
I mean, Wentz wasn't.
Sam Darnold.
He wasn't horrendous. He was just horrendous when he was horrendous. When he was bad, he was real bad. But he wasn't real bad the whole day.
He had 300 passing yards.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm not burying the guy and saying that he was awful. But there was some. When he was bad, he's bad. I mean, that's just Carson Wentz at this stage of his career. Everybody loves to pile on Wentz as if a guy told you so. This guy can't play. If you can't figure out that this guy the injuries just absolutely crippled this guy. The reason why Carson was what he was, it wasn't because he was some phenomenal pocket passer. It was what we saw at times yesterday. He can't be that guy anymore, though, where he uses his legs, he escapes, he counter spins.
How about that sling where he throws sidearm for the first down? You're like, whoa, there's the 2017 Wentz.
Every once in a while, you get a glimpse of it.
Yeah.
But it's a shame. He just can't do it. He can't be that guy consistently. I mean, the guy's had knee problems, back problems, wrist problems, shoulder problems. I mean, he's just completely a beat-up guy.
Yeah, he's a mash unit, basically.
And you look what O'Connell did with Sam Darnold last year.
Yep.
Totally different story.
Hey, KOC's a really good coach. I think we're starting to see that. He's basically making guys like Josh Dobbs and Carson Wentz functional starters in the NFL.
And if looks could kill, O'Connell on the sidelines yesterday, he had some looks going.
Oh, that one
Carson
interception,
Wentz's
he looked
way.
like he wanted to murder Wentz.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, that was terrible.
Jim in Williamstown chimes in and says, hey, guys, I guess I was wrong about the Eagles losing their next 3. It was great to see this side of them with the offense opening up. I just hope they can maintain it, says Jim in Williamstown.
Listen, no one's asking Jalen Hurts to have a perfect passer rating every single game. I think what we are saying is, hey, look, you now know that you could trust him to kind of throw the ball down the field a little bit more than you do. You get a lot of these looks where teams are stacking the line.
Yeah.
Now he has shown you that he can make those throws. He can throw the ball down the field or in that seam throw to A.J. Brown. You can ask Wentz to do more if need be, and I think like that's one of the things with this offense that we haven't seen them really say, hey, Wentz, let's try to open it up a little bit more and let you try to, take control here.
Next, we're going to go to Mike in Northfield. He says, hey, Mike, this is Mike in Northfield. If the Vikings had a competent quarterback, the Eagles would probably lose that game. Wentz single-handedly halted red zone possessions, specifically the intentional grounding. The dirt ball was a beyond bonehead play.
Yeah, that was terrible.
He said it reminded me a little bit of. He reminds me a little bit of McNabb back in the day. If that drive alone ends in a TD, we're probably having a different conversation today. Says Mike in Northfield.
What about the touchdown throw to Hawkinson?
Overturned, yeah.
I still think that was a catch.
I think it was a catch, too.
Because
I couldn't believe the amount of people that were like, I don't think he caught this. I'm like, what the?
Now, do you have a problem with New York basically overruling the officials there? Or the fact that we're just used to it?
If I could just say, the problem I had was I was talking with my buddies about this during the game yesterday. Like, we never got to see the other side view. We only got to see the view from where the quarterback was and the one view that was on the TV cast. We never got to saw the other view from the other camera. So I'm assuming that the league had a camera view that none of us watching the game got to see.
Yeah, I didn't like the turn. I didn't like the fact that they overturned that call. I mean, it works out for the Eagles, but you got to be. I mean, what's the difference if I agree with it or not? That's the call they made. So there's no benefit of me coming on here saying no, he didn't catch that. I thought it was a catch. There was another call that they made.
Yeah.
There was another call on a holding that I thought the Eagles made out on.
Well, there's also
it negated a touchdown, didn't it?
There was also a false start by Lane Johnson. It was blatantly obvious on television. They never threw a flag on him.
Yeah.
And the Jordan Mason touchdown, that was like
that's the one.
That's the one?
Yeah. There was a hold on that call that got called back. I don't think it was a hold.
No, that wasn't a hold. That was
the Mason touchdown.
Where it crossed the plane, right?
Yeah, across the plane. Well, guess what? That they would if you're calling the hold on that play, you should have called the hold on Steen in the first half.
Well, we know that there's a hold on almost every single play.
Exactly.
So, but I thought on a touchdown call to call that touchdown back.
It was weak sauce.
Well, the Hawkinson play, that would make it, 26, 24?
Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't the run. It was Wentz the touchdown to a Naylor for 6 yards.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. There was a penalty on offensive holding on Brandell. I thought that was a weak call. It was in the second quarter. It was a touchdown pass.
Gotcha.
Now, again, the Hawkinson play would have made it 26-24, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that would have changed the game dramatically.
Well, yeah, because if that's the case, they're only down one score, and they get, they have to. Now the Eagles ended up running that. I don't want to say running it out, but
A.J.
they ended up getting the first down, right, and running the clock out.
But guess what? Maybe the Vikings play that differently if it
Oh, no doubt. If you're down by 2 points in the game,
instead of almost a touchdown.
And maybe the Eagles run it 3 straight times.
it was 28-19 when he caught that ball, or what they said was not a catch.
Right. So a touchdown would have been 25. They hit the extra point, it'd be 26.
Well, the fact that they did not run it 3 straight times, does that tell you just the confidence that they do not have?
Well, it tells you that
Barkley
Brett
right
Toth
now?
shouldn't be at center, and that at the end of the game, they realize they can't rely on this idiot.
That's a good, because how many people, okay, I'm glad you brought this up, because late in that game, you would say, you can't throw the ball here. You got to run the ball, but Minnesota had timeouts. But you were saying you got to make them use their timeouts, except for you don't think they can run the ball, so you almost felt like they have to throw the ball. So then they threw the ball incomplete, and you're thinking you can't throw an incomplete pass. He threw that little quick thing to A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't throw a pass incomplete at this time of the game because you got to make them take timeouts. But
Exactly.
you didn't trust that you could run the ball there.
Which is a huge indictment
That's
on
a problem.
what's going with the O-line.
Right, that's a problem where you're trying to let the clock run and make them use timeouts, but you don't think you can run the ball, so you had to throw a pass, and then the clock stopped.
Which, again, goes back to Brandon Graham coming back does not fix the biggest problem on this team, which is we need O-line help at this point.
Big time.
Rico in Millville chimes in. He says, it's crazy that Jalen Hurts was the first quarterback with a perfect passer rating this year. We have to trust Hurts moving forward, says Rico in Millville.
I don't have a big problem with the concept of letting Hurts, do more. Now, you don't want him throwing the ball 40, 45 times every single week. That's not – you got to find a balance in there of letting Wentz have a little bit more leash of taking shots down the field, trying to get those one-on-one matchups. You have 2 receivers that you can easily try to find one-on-one opportunities or soft spots in these zones, and it seems that Hurts is capable of doing that. You just have to dial them up a little bit more.
Which is ironic because literally the next text is anti-Hurts. You got one guy all positive on Hurts at 609-403-0973, and the next person didn't leave their name, by the way. They said, I need to see more from Hurts. I'm sorry, but Hurts isn't as good of a deep ball thrower as everyone says. And I'll die on that hill, says the texter.
Well, yesterday you died.
And then he might come back to life, next game down the line.
Exactly.
I mean, all fans have 9 lives. I mean, everybody says stupid things. That guy yesterday looked stupid. I mean, you're going to die on that hill. For this week, you used up one of your 9 lives. I mean, now you're bleeding out, buddy. Sorry.
Mike in Wildwood chimes in and says, guys, yesterday did nothing for me. We know Hurts, AJ, and Smith can do this. We've seen it before. We just need to put a whole game together. Yes, we won. I'm happy. But Saquon looks fatigued. No doubt about it. The line is injured, and the ones that are playing and healthy, they're fatigued as well, says Mike in Wildwood.
Well, Mike, guess what? You're lucky that the Eagles have a bye coming up after the Giant game. So maybe this Giant game, you get this one done, and then if you win that game, you're 6-2, and you're unhappy at 6-2. You know how many teams would raise their hand to say, I'd like to be unhappy at 6-2? And maybe that could be where the Eagles are going into a bye week. And maybe after that bye week, they will get re-energized, recharged, and come out in the second half looking much more refreshed. So if you go 6-2 with a team that looks tired and needs to be recharged, I think you feel pretty good about the team coming out of a bye. But the game against the Giants becomes interesting because they beat you, obviously, and now the game being in Philadelphia, you can't lose a home game against the Giants. No freaking way.
No, you got to come out here and smash them in this game.
You cannot, and that would be 2 losses to the Giants, 0-2 against the Giants.
Can't have that happen.
Cannot have that happen.
I believe that hasn't happened since 2008 was the stat that I saw.
And listen, Jalen Hurts, the way he played last week, you would think that now the offense has, if you are the Giants, you've got to game plan a little bit more for saying, okay, these guys show the ability to do this a little bit more. We've got to now be prepared for that. And maybe that does open up some more room for Saquon.
Guys, we got Glenn and Absekin chiming in on the text board. He says, the NFL is a week-to-week league, and I would take Hurts week-to-week over people like Justin Fields, Geno Smith, Spencer Rattler,
come
and some of
on,
these
wow.
other quarterbacks.
You're putting him in a category of quarterbacks who are dog bleep.
He says the Eagle fans should be happy that they have a capable and
Fields
confident
got benched
quarterback.
yesterday. You want to put Tua in that conversation?
Listen, I liken Glenn and Absekin, who's one of our great texters. I liken Hurts to like Tim Tebow in college. Like, he just always wins. Like, whatever the result is, it's a W. Like, we got this text chain, and I got to remove myself at times in this text. I'm like, dude, we got people arguing about Wentz, and this guy's saying, that's my guy. I said, dude, who cares what his stats are and what his this is and that and his percentages on this? I mean, at the end of the day, what are you hoping for? Do you want better stats or more wins?
Right. What's more important? Is it being pretty or is it winning ball games?
Right. Like, if you don't like Hurts, you are basically saying, I would rather my guy have bigger stats. And if you like Hurts, you're probably a guy who likes winning. I'm a guy who likes winning. I don't care what stats Hurts puts up. I've never been an anti-Hurts guy, so I have no problem with Hurts.
Because guess what? Dan Marino put up way better stats than Troy Aikman, but Troy Aikman's got 3 rings.
In 2023, there was a guy on Twitter who I've never heard from since, but he used to come at me all the time because I said at the end of the season that I saw enough from Hurts that I would give him the opportunity to be the full-time starter over drafting a guy in that particular draft, 2023, because I did not like that draft class, or trading for Deshaun Watson,
good call,
Russell Wilson,
good call,
and whoever other veteran quarterback. I said I would rather see Hurts than any of those guys here. And they ended up going to the Super Bowl, and he was the runner-up for the MVP. Now, it worked out for me in that comment there, but I have not had any problem with Hurts. My problem with Hurts is more, I feel that the coaching staff doesn't trust him enough on a week-to-week basis. It's like they decide when they feel like trusting him. It's like they just don't want him to turn the ball over. Because I will say, there are weeks that he's frustrating, that I think he leaves meat on the bone. I think he misses guys. I think he doesn't see the whole field. But that's not all the time in every single moment. So I'm not the guy who's just like, hey, I got to see more. I am 100% fine with Jalen Hurts being the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Cole from LBI chimes in. He says, Jalen Hurts lives or dies with the deep ball and A.J. and Smith winning one-on-one. That's why I believe you do not want to see this offense without A.J. A.J. is the most important player on the Eagles' offense, says Cole in LBI.
Hey, listen, if the deep ball is your best characteristic, utilize it. And now I would counter that by saying I think that Devontae Smith could be a guy that you could utilize in that role. The thing for me would be if Devontae Smith was your best wide receiver like he was when he was a rookie, I would hope you would have a better option across from A.J. Now, I'm not advocating to getting rid of A.J. Smith either, but I don't agree wholeheartedly that I think that Devontae could be a number one guy if they had a good number two.
Right, that's the key. You need somebody else, like how Jefferson has Addison out there.
Yeah, just a good complement to what you do. Like, the Eagles' complement is kind of weird. You got this big physical freak number one receiver that's like the big physical guy. AJ's not that big physical guy. He's more smooth. So when you think of complementary receivers, like what they have with the Rams, like when Puka's healthy, like you got Puka Nacua on one side. He's kind of the silky smooth, runs great routes underneath.
Right.
And then you've got Devontae Adams, who was kind of the more
beast,
traditional
possession,
physical number one receiver. Those two guys are good complements to each other. You mentioned Addison, who was on my fantasy team, by the way.
He's on mine as well.
And Jefferson. Those two guys are good complements for each other. Like Brown and Smith are good complements, but they're just it's not like the ones that you think in your head.
Exactly.
Myrtle Beach.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, Phil and Brigantine chimes in and says, Mike, I was thinking that Howie made a huge mistake getting rid of Isaiah Rodgers offseason, but he got beat so badly and often yesterday. It's nice to know that I was wrong, says Phil and Brigantine.
Yes, that was getting out of hand, right? The slurping of Isaiah Rodgers.
Whoa,
we can finally put that.
Jeez.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, listen, is Isaiah Rodgers better than what you have? Maybe. Did they play a different defense than you play? that factors into how many people. And I said this on the show last week. Like, if you see A.J. Brown lined up one-on-one with Isaiah Rodgers, you got to win that battle every single time. Like,
exactly.
Isaiah Rodgers is not in the same league as A.J. Brown. You can't lie. And they had him lined up late in the game one-on-one. And you're like, what are you thinking? Like, that's not Isaiah Rodgers' fault. He wouldn't be used in the same capacity if he was here.
No, but I would say that the reason why you would like to have Rodgers here is because of what you saw in the game yesterday, which is Keely Ringo being targeted often late in that game.
Yeah, Ringo's just not. He's just not consistent.
He just doesn't belong as a starter in the NFL. Like, if you had Isaiah Rodgers
but keep in mind, Adoree got hurt.
Well, sure. But, I mean, if Adoree got hurt and Isaiah Rodgers was coming in instead of Keely Ringo, maybe that game looks a little different.
Right, but the whole concept was now maybe Rodgers is starting here.
True.
But maybe if that's the case, then Ringo's not here, and then you're still in the same. You never had. But, I do think that Isaiah had a tough day yesterday, but I kept saying, I said this on Friday, if Isaiah Rodgers is lined up one-on-one with either of the Eagles receivers, that's a win for you. He can't guard those guys one-on-one. Get the heck out of here with that.
No,
you saw that yesterday.
Let's squeeze in one more text here. Justin from Ventnor chimes in and says, we all know that we need to get back to the RPO game. It will open up everything else for this team, and then we can pull away from other teams every single week. They just need to get back to the run-pass option, says Justin in Ventnor.
I think, Justin, that those days are over. As, featuring that offense. You might see it, in a playoff. I don't think you're going to see that week to week anymore because they don't want Jalen getting hurt.
Yeah.
You watch the Sixers Friday night?
A little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit. I was checking in on him, I'll tell you one thing, man. VJ Edgecombe, I mean, that Russell Westbrook I'm getting comparisons to on my texts.
Yeah. He was fun.
He was fun to watch. He just likes to yam on people, man.
He's going to be – I tweeted this out. I said, I hate to tell people, the Sixers are going to be better than you think. If you're just a miserable Sixer curmudgeon.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah. This is going to be a rough year for you. It's going to be a rough year for you. You stinking curmudgeon losers. Just open up and enjoy yours. I actually heard Josh Harris on a podcast. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Mm-hmm. He was the guest.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually it was one of the best I've ever heard him come off.
What an empire he has, man. Now he's got Bob Myers in charge of everything.
All right, when we come back, Nick Sirianni, his day after presser, you will hear what the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles thought about his quarterback's performance yesterday, the offense, and I'm sure he'll be asked about Brandon Graham. Wait till you hear what he says on that. Coming up next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, we're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. When the Eagles win, you win. A free order of spicy tandoori chicken wings over at my friends at the Nizam Indian Restaurant. The Eagles win, you win. You can get over there today and walk on in and get a nice free order of spicy tandoori chicken wings. Just say, hey, I'm here for the wings. Free wings. I heard it on the Sports Bash. You will thank me. Those wings are outstanding. They also have a great lunch buffet on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and a banquet space that can sit up to 100 people for a private event and celebrations. But get the tandoori chicken wings. Thank me later. All right? All right, coming up, Nick Sirianni is addressing the media after the Eagles win over the Minnesota Vikings. And here is the head coach, Nick Sirianni, right now on the Sports Bash.
Hey, Nick. Devontae was talking in the locker room how at like halftime he was going around to everyone saying that deep ball was there and everything. I was wondering, A, if he had relayed that to you, and B, how important is it to get that kind of input from players when they see something and then, obviously end up calling the play?
Yeah, we talk about everything. And definitely, I know Smitty was in communication with offensive coaches, what he was saying. That's pretty standard, in between series in the locker room, you're getting everybody's input, and Smitty does a great job of communicating what he's seeing out there. He's really, he's got great football instincts and football IQ. So, he gives you that confidence to be able to call things in those scenarios when he sees something. And, we got a lot of guys, like we have high football IQ guys. We have a lot of guys like that. And so that gives you a lot of confidence to be able to go, just like I kind of talked about with fourth down yesterday, that you got confidence in the players to go make a play in critical situations. Well, it's the same thing with things that they're seeing, because they have a different point of view than we have from the press box or from the sideline, because they're on the field looking at it. So it's great to be able to have players like Devontae that can relay what he's seeing, and you can trust that what he's seeing is, and what he's telling you is good information. And it's just like having another set of eyes from coaches out there on the field.
We'll go to Elliott and then Rube.
Hey, Nick, you guys had a ton of success passing the ball from under center yesterday. I know this might be complicated to answer without giving away game plan stuff, but is there a simple way to explain why yesterday it really worked for you guys and you used it as opposed to the first 6 games of the season?
Obviously yesterday there was a little bit more under center runs, so you mesh up your play actions and your passes with some of those things. So some things that we studied in that little mini bye, is things that we looked at, and that's kind of why you got to see some of the things that you saw yesterday. It's always going to be important that your run and your play action pass game mesh together, because the defense has to go from a run defense to be a pass rusher, which is difficult for a defensive line. I know we talk a lot about that as our defense. So you always want to have those things mesh together, and yesterday that meshed together the way you saw.
We'll go to Rube and then Dave.
Hey, Nick. Obviously, you just played the Giants a couple weeks ago. Didn't go well. How do you take that game? How do you take that game? What do you do with that game? Do you kind of emphasize the revenge factor this coming week and remind them or do you just kind of focus like it's any other game?
Focus like it's any other game. Now, it's a unique game in which that you play a team the second time. And it's even more unique that it's been 1 week of games since then. And so, just like everything we talk about, I know you guys asked me on a Thursday night or a short week or a Monday night game or a first game or a snow game, you have things that you look at in all those, because it's slightly different. But nothing changes in respect to your process. You still have a week to prepare. All the things, business as usual, but we'll have some things that we look at as coaches, knowing that we just played them and we know that they will as well.
We'll go to Dave and then Tim.
Nick, whose idea was it to add the outside backers to the catch circuit? And how often do you make changes like that to a practice week?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to say it's this person's idea or that person's idea. We're not looking for credit. We're looking for contribution. And that's what we try to preach to the entire team is contribution over credit. And we know how important fundamentals are. Dave, anything like, hey, we need more work at this strip attempt, then you might put a drill into your circuit there, or hey, we need to add this group into this, into the catch circuit, and you may do that as well. So, just because you do something a certain way, and that you've had success with the fundamentals that we have, doesn't mean you're constantly not thinking about how you make that process and those drills and the things that you do better, because that's all you're constantly thinking about. How do you find ways to win, and then you find ways to get better, and that's what's on our mind in everything that we do. And so there's constant tweaks and evaluate and different things to our process and to our practices to help make it the best it can be, so we can put ourselves in position to win on the weekend.
We'll go to Tim and then John.
Nick, we saw how Jalen responded to a couple losses in a row there with his performance on the field, and then as he's walking off the field, he had the comment like, "We're not losers anymore." What have you kind of learned about his response to when you guys do go through, whether it's one game or two games of losing, and sort of like his relationship to that, and that helps us understand sort of how he's wired.
Yeah, hyper competitive guy. You love that. Wants to win. A lot of people want to win, but are they willing to do the things that winning requires? And I think that's what you get with Jalen. He wants to win in the worst way, and he's willing to do anything and everything that winning requires. All that, always that path to the locker room is always an emotional time too. I don't think he can put too much stock into what we say into that. Probably have to get you guys out of that area so we can just walk freely into there and say what's on our mind at that particular case, because it's such an emotional game. But yeah, the easiest way to sum that up, Tim, is that he's just, will do everything, wants to win in the worst way, and will do everything that winning requires, which is a lot throughout the week.
We'll go to John and then Jeff McClain.
Hey, Nick, curious to what you saw from the film when it came to the running game. Obviously, it was pretty effective on that first drive and kind of waned from there, and you were able to toggle and had tremendous success in the passing game. But what you saw?
Yeah, obviously they did a good job of making some adjustments in that after that first drive to force us to try to win another way, and we did a good job as offensive coaches and with the players of countering those adjustments. That's the way football goes. It's a constant game of adjusting and seeing how they adjust. And so good job by them adjusting. We know we want to be a balanced team. But we really don't care how it looks. We'll do whatever we need to do to win each and every game, and then find ways to get better from there. And so, I encourage you guys just to focus on that. Like, focus on everything you can do to win, and focus on everything you can do to get better. And kind of, understand that's how football goes. That you got to have multiple ways to win. And great. So great job by our team and our offense to get it going a different way. But we still obviously want to be a balanced attack on offense.
We'll go to McClain and then Bo.
McClain. Nick, Howie makes a lot. You guys have had a lot of trades already this
You didn't like that you went with your last name?
No, I thought I liked it.
Yeah. Okay.
There's multiple Geoffs now. Nick, you guys have already had a lot of trades in the off season, and then training camp and in season. And Howie obviously trades more than any other GM in the league. Having been a position coach or coordinator, now that you're head coach, how do you deal with the conversations that need to take place with your assistants, and then how that filters down to the other players of how the trades affect them and playing time and all that goes into that?
Well, first, McClain, no, well, yeah, I think it's important that you always have constant communication with your guys, on every front, because it takes everybody. And I think back to when you draft a guy high. I think back to, when we drafted Jonathan Taylor in Indy. First call we make is obviously to Jonathan to tell him we drafted him, but then the next one's to Marlon Mack to let him know, that, there's always constant competition, just reminding them of the core values. There's always constant competition. Best guys will play. It doesn't mean you're any less important to this football team. I think it's always because it takes everybody and it's going to take everybody. And so I think the constant communication with your guys is always really important there. I think Howie and I do a good job of just communicating the vision for the guys and this and that and how we may use them. I think that's always an important factor of it as well. But I think, when you're dealing with players, you're dealing with the position coaches, it always comes down to the communication and still understanding that regardless of what happens, everybody's needed. Everybody's contribution is needed, and that we'll need everybody to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. We'll need everybody involved. That doesn't mean everybody, has to like it, but I think the most important thing is that you're always open and honest and communicating. Excuse me.
We'll go to Bo and then Christian.
Thought you were going to go Wolf for sure. Nick, end of the first half when Jalen takes the sack, 3rd and 13 with a little over 20 seconds left. How come no timeout and just head to the locker room? Yeah, in that particular case, we have times. We have different variations of what we do on 2 minute, of how we attack. And that was a time right there where 3rd and 13, you have a timeout, you have 2 timeouts. But in that particular case, it was time to let that drive end and go to the locker room. 3rd and 13 is not a guarantee. Obviously, I believe in our team and believe in our guys at all costs, but you also got to play smart. And 3rd and 13 in that situation where you're not into a guaranteed, hey, I'm getting points if I convert this 3rd and 13. I'm still going to have work to do once I do get this 3rd and 13. The risks kind of outweigh the potential benefits from it. And at that point, you don't get it, and then you have to punt. They can, in that scenario, I know what we would do in punt, return in that scenario. And at that particular case, we played that exactly how I wanted to. Obviously, I wanted to go and get points, which is why you saw the drive go as it was. But once we did take the sack in that particular case, we played that how I wanted to play that. I have no regrets there. And are you also factoring in how you were playing on offense at the time as opposed to just
everything's always taken into account. Everything's always taken into account. So, but yeah, we have our stipulations, and with pretty much every scenario you could possibly imagine. But within all those situations, you take account everything that's going on in the game and how and your past experiences, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Christian and then Bob Brookover.
Hey, Nick, you guys obviously made the most of your mini bye, and you got Jalen under center, as you alluded to earlier. I was wondering if Cam's injury had anything to do with, was he under center more after that because of the injury? And just what you thought of him being under center, how comfortable he looked, and how comfortable he looked throwing the ball over the middle, and how that worked with the play action. Even though you guys weren't gaining a lot with Saquon running, you still committed to running, and how that played into the play action success.
Yeah, again, you go into a game and you're always thinking about the players that you have. We have a lot of faith and confidence in Brett Toth. That's why he was in there. And so nothing really changed when Brett got in the game because of Brett does such a good job of preparing like a starter, and he's always ready when called upon. I thought obviously Jalen played, if you have a perfect quarterback rating, you obviously played a really good game. And Jalen did. He played awesome. He played really awesome. And, but when you have a perfect quarterback rating, it's a team. That really may be a Jalen stat, but that's a team stat. It took, great protection, which we had really good protection against a really good front all day. It took, the commitment to the run game to try to get that going, to open some other stuff up. It took unbelievable catches by the wide receivers and route detail and discipline. And so it's just a cool stat that emphasizes the whole team. And so, we'll see how things move forward as far as what the ways we want to attack. Every game calls for different things. This is what this game called for, and this is kind of some of the things that came off of our self-scout, and we'll continue to work to find ways to get better.
We have time for two more, so we'll go to Bob Brookover and finish with Zach.
Hey, Nick, you got kind of a unique look on the tush push yesterday. Is that what caused that timeout before the second one? And just out of curiosity, so you called the timeout before they reviewed the catch, or they challenged the catch. Like, would you have gotten the timeout back if that had not?
I didn't. They challenged the catch, and that was the timeout. I didn't call a timeout there.
Oh, okay, because it was announced. I guess it was announced. And when you look at that, what kind of challenge does that front present? Maybe that you guys hadn't seen before.
Yeah, we're going to always see new and unique. We ran it one time and we got it one time. So we're always going to see new. And when we lined up for another one, we jumped off sides. So we really didn't get the opportunity to run it there. But we're always going to see new and unique ways. That's not new to us. When you run something when you run something the amount of times that we've ran that play, you're going to see everything. You're going to see unique ways. You're going to see teams working on that all off season to try to figure out how to stop it. I think we've seen pretty much we've seen a ton. But then they threw something a little bit different at us, and so we're ready for that. We're ready to account for that, and we're expecting those different things. And we'll have little wrinkles based off of the way they're lining up to counter some of those things.
We'll close out with Zach here.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. I would quickly add to your answer to Tim that there's certainly nothing wrong with saying what's on your mind with us around. But we've seen, and I guess in that spirit at center, we've seen you take different approaches to the backup spot. What dictates whether you move Landon Dickerson over or put Brett in there? And then how is that approach different in a non-game day situation?
Yeah, obviously flexibility is huge, and to have guys that can play multiple spots is really important. You always need multiple centers ready on game day, just because not everybody can do that job, right? And so, again, you decide what's best in that moment. Is it Landon there, and Brett in for Landon, or do you just have one change there? I think the end of the day, what helps you make those decisions is your trust in the guys that are ready to step in. We've had, this game produces so many moments where guys are called upon that maybe you didn't think would be called upon. They're in uniform, they're ready to be called upon, but you didn't, you think about it, but you don't necessarily know what's going to happen. And we've had so many good contributions. One of the coolest pictures I have from last year is, it wasn't just the 5 offensive linemen holding up Saquon after he rushed for 2,000 yards. It was everybody that made that happen. And it wasn't just those 5 guys. It was a bunch of offensive linemen that stepped in and made plays. And it was everybody on the offense, to be quite honest, but it was a special moment between Saquon and the offensive line. And what I thought was so cool about that is that, there was 8 or 9 guys in that picture, not just the 5.
Anything you can tell us on Cam?
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously haven't got with the doctors quite yet. That's a little bit later. I usually get with them a little bit after I talk to you guys. And so, we're into our game planning, just finishing up with the players right now and about to get into our game planning purposes. So it's usually the time I get with him. So we'll see. I know he'll do everything he can do to be as ready as soon as he possibly can.
Nick Sirianni, of course, the Eagles win, and when the Eagles win, a little lighthearted Nick Sirianni when the Eagles win, not as defensive or on guard.
Yeah, Gill. Heading.
I'll tell you what, the one thing that he talked about Brett Toth being in the game, and we trust him to do everything. They can't run this thing the same way they do with Brett Toth out there. And it's not Brett's fault. He's just, one of the things that make Jason Kelsey great was that you can use him on the second level. He can, pull. Juergens has shown the ability to do that. Brett Toth can't do those kind of things. All right, coming up, more Sports Bash on the way. We're live at the Fanatic Sportsbook. When we come back, Geoff Mosher has today's football at 4 as we take a look at all the key moments in the game and what can the Eagles build on from that performance. That's in football at 4. It's coming up next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Do we think they're going to win games like this without a running game?
Do we think that this is who the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be? Saquon Barkley hasn't had 100 yards rushing in any game. We knew he was going to take a step back because there's just no world in which he was going to rush for 2,000 again, right? He had 1,400 yards before first contact last year. I just didn't see a world where they could just run that back. But I thought the Eagles at their best, this group of players, would be a team that would run the football first. That's not what they were yesterday. Do we think that they're capable of replicating this type of performance week over week?
That's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Chris Canty. It's brought to you by Whitehorse RV Center. Find fall closeout savings in 2025's select pre-owned RVs. Shop now before they're gone. Whitehorse RV, your RV adventure starts here. I can't disagree with Canty here because that would be the one question I have about this Eagles team. Okay, they opened it up. They threw the football. They showed that they can throw the ball down the field. Jalen Hurts was awesome. He's got two great receivers. These are all things that we know, and we saw them do. And now we're like, okay, but to finish the job, you got to be complete. They got to be able to run the ball. So Canty, I agree with what he said. They won the game yesterday. They should be applauded, get the win, move on, but they got to figure out a way to run the ball.
And 18 carries was, it's better. It's getting closer to 20,
Yeah, but 18 for 44, not better.
That's not good at all, no.
The amount of carries yesterday wasn't the issue. They stuck with the run. They tried to do it, but they couldn't do it. What Chris Canty said, I got to agree with. If they can't figure out a way to get Saquon Barkley, and listen, he's on pace for under 1,000 yards this year.
And per carry-wise, I think it's probably 3 yards at this point.
It is not good. When we come back, we'll talk to Geoff Mosher about it. The Eagles win yesterday. What about what the Eagles did in that game is something they can continue to do? Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast joins me for today's edition of Football at 4. Next, we're live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook right here in Atlantic City at Ocean Casino Resort. We are live on a Monday here. You know, they've got Bush and Soul Asylum playing here.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Machine Head?
Machine Head. Glycerine.
Actually,
Gavin sent out the text to a couple of friends. Every single person, when I said, yo, anybody in for Bush December 13th? Every single person in.
You know, that's a mystery because I didn't get that text.
Well, I didn't get around to everybody yet.
Oh, okay.
Normally you're out.
Yes. You don't even have to ask me.
You don't have to ask. So you're last on you're low priority.
I got a wife and a kid. Mosher knows.
Well, so does all these other people
That's
that I
true.
asked. Every single person I asked, all wife, kids, and they all said yes. I gave them enough notice, December 13th. I mean, you have
That is true.
over a
That
month.
is enough time to get a hall pass.
Yeah. Now, you want to see Sting?
The AEW
No,
Sting
no,
or the police Sting?
Police.
Okay.
I know Schwein would want to go.
Yes.
He's a big Sting guy, big police guy. All right, let's bring in Mosher for today's Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. As the Eagles win, and, Geoff, they do it in a way that excites people, right? So when you see the way they won yesterday, is it a shift in philosophy? Did they just is it a one-week only thing? Or is this, are they ready to unlock something here?
I mean, I think they've played this game a couple of times this year, right, where they don't look very good for a half, and then they come out and just drop bombs, whether it's the first half or the second half. I think that this looked a lot like a typical Eagles win, and, of course, there are, you know, some people are really happy with it, and some people think that there was either meat left on the bone or just some to be desired from it.
Well, I guess the way that they threw the ball down the field, they had a lot of big plays. They were able to convert in key spots. I mean, their third down conversion is still a huge problem. But you're right. The first half, you know, it was the same thing, 3 and out. But it was the way that, hey, 4th and 4, you make the throw. Some of the inside, you know, the inside touchdown to Brown, the long throw, obviously, to Devontae Smith. So, I don't know. It felt like there was more cohesion maybe in the pass game.
Yeah, I think you are making a fair point that even in games the Eagles have won where the pass game has looked better in certain parts of the game, you haven't seen as many explosives as you saw against the Vikings defense. And, you know, it was bound to happen. I mean, it finally had to happen. I didn't think we were going to go all year without the explosive element of the Eagles offense showing up, where both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown perform well. I mean, I guess we're just still waiting. I've been saying you're not going to go all year without seeing Saquon Barkley not have 100 yards, but here we are, and he still doesn't have it.
Why is the run game struggling yesterday? Same thing, offensive line, or what? When you watch, he had 18 carries for only 44 yards. I mean, just almost insignificant portion of the part of the game yesterday again.
Yeah, and you know what? I got to give credit to the Eagles for trying something different. I wrote this on Philly Voice today. They had about 16 snaps of under center, which you don't really see that a whole lot. Jalen Hurts going under center. And that's the highest they played this year, and I wasn't able to go back. I didn't have the time to really research it, but I imagine that was pretty big amount. You know, that might be their most that they played in a while. And I know that Brett Toth had to play center when Juergens came out, and Toth has struggles snapping the ball when he is in shotgun. So there's part of me thought maybe that's why they played so much under center. But honestly, the first 4 plays of the game, they were under center. And then they threw Fred Johnson out there on 8 of those 16 under center snaps to try to get an extra blocker in the run game and up front. And, you know, the result was Saquon actually only rushed for 22 yards and 12 carries. Worse than his actual season average, but the 79-yard touchdown, all right, and then a couple of them. There was a 79-yard touchdown, then the 21-yarder and 18-yarder to Devontae Smith. Those came from under center. So they clearly did a good job of seeing how the Vikings were defending them when they were under center in the first half, which was the boundary safety kept creeping up, trying to play against the run, and then took advantage of that in the passing game. So I know everybody loves that word adjustments. Everybody likes to come down on Kevin Patullo and play calling, but those were good adjustments and those were good plays based on what the Vikings had been doing for the formation that the Eagles had been showing.
Well, they had a perfect balance yesterday, 23 runs, 23 passes. So it wasn't like at the end of the day, they didn't just say, hey, we're going to just throw the ball all over the yard. I mean, there wasn't a lot of plays in the game. 46 is a low amount of plays to run in the game. But obviously, it's some of the throws and some of the passes that they were able to make. And a lot of it came in the second half, which you talked about over at Philly Voices, the fact that they finally got AJ involved. They got Devontae Smith involved. But this is a lot of, I don't know, did Jalen Hurts just make better reads? Did they call a better game? Why was it able to come alive?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, right? I mean, I just mentioned some of the schematic things they did differently. The Vikings are going to give you opportunities. They're going to rush 6 a lot. That was their primary defense, rushing 6. So that's a blitz. So that means if you're under center like that with an extra offensive lineman, you've got more guys to block than they're bringing. So that's helpful. And I think, Jalen Hurts made some really beautiful throws. Obviously, the play action to 79-yarder to Devontae Smith was sort of vintage Jalen Hurts with the beautiful dime downfield in stride. But I thought the touchdown to A.J. Brown, not the first one, the second one, where he put it between 2 defenders, I think it was a bang 8 that they call it. That, to me, was such a beautiful throw because he had to thread some needles. I believe it was between the numbers there. He made a throw before that, I think the 21-yarder to Smith, where he absolutely took a massive hit right as he was unloading the ball. He just made better plays. Yeah, I think that's it. And nothing that shouldn't be like strange, right? Because how many times last year did we see the offense, pass offense, not really play very well and just kind of do what it needed to do to get by, and then like you play a team like the Steelers. And all of a sudden, Jalen's like, bang, bang, bang. Things are going well. No huddle, all that stuff. So it's sort of a surprise, I guess, for this year. But it's really in the bigger picture. Not a surprise that every once in a while the pass game just clicks in a way that you don't see it happen all the time every week.
What is your overall take on the run game's future this season? I mean, is this something that's fixable? Or, I mean, we did our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Chris Canty this morning basically said, look, the Eagles can't, unless they get this run game going, they can't be what they want to be. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, I agree with the assessment of this. If the Eagles are not going to be a dominant run game, I think that the playing field between them and say the Lions, Bucks, and Rams is a little more even. Whereas last year it was theirs to lose once they got everything going. By the end of the year, the Eagles looked like the dominant team in the NFL and then played like it. Well, at least for, the NFC Championship and Super Bowl. But if they can't get an effective run game at all this year, that's really telltale on the offensive line. And if you're telling me that, as you always say, Mike, the offensive line's the MVP. And if the MVP ain't playing like an MVP, then to me it becomes a much more difficult obstacle for this team to win a Super Bowl.
Right, and you saw Toth. I mean, obviously that's not ideal. Dickerson
not at all.
Was back out there yesterday. You're hoping that Dickerson, but you run the ball to the left-hand side behind Mailata and Dickerson. I know the center is involved in that play. But, hey, I'm going to go off tackle with Mailata and Dickerson. I feel like I should have some success there. If I go behind Steen and Johnson, I feel like I should get some success. Is it the way they're trying to run the ball, or is it, nope, this offensive line still out of sync?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dickerson's out there, but he's not out there at 100%. I don't think Mailata has played great this year. I don't know if he's battling something in training camp. I think a lot of the reporters who were there, myself, we thought it at times looked like he was grimacing or something. I mean, he's never been on the injury report, so I don't know. But he's not been himself. And then you combine that with everybody knows what the Eagles do and who they are and what their run formations look like. And I know that we talk about predictability, but the reality is there are not like 500 different kind of runs in the NFL. I mean, you can motion some guys, you can shift some guys, but the reality is your run game is your run game. Mm-hmm. And so you had everybody studying tendencies all off season long. So yeah, the combination of defenses, seeing, they've played some pretty good defense. It's been a pretty tough schedule this year. I haven't seen anything. I know you guys are talking about Saquon earlier in the show. And if you really look at Saquon's entire career, he has been a guy who has been tremendously reliant on having a bunch of 3 to 5 yard runs and then 4 or 5 just backbreaker explosives. I think one of you or Peachy were talking about his vision as a runner, not being there, or somebody saw that on film. But
yeah, that was, by the way, that was, we do our segment called One Thought Every Game, where Casey Joyner kind of gives us a thought on every game. And he said the problem he sees with the running game is that Barkley is not making people miss as much as he did last year. And is that from the vision, that is he missing stuff, or is he just not? I don't know. Is he not making people miss as much? Go ahead.
I mean, I don't think it's a vision issue per se, because I would argue that Saquon's vision has never been his strongest asset. It's more about the ability to wiggle in and out of things. I mean, to just make that spin move or hurdle or use his athleticism. And then he kicks it into a second gear better than probably any running back in the league, like from 0 to 60, right? Whereas some guys got to need a little bit of a build up. So I don't think that's the issue. I just think he's getting hit. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. His yards before contact are so much lower this year than they were last year. I mean, he's just getting hit so much faster. Yeah. And I don't know.
Well, there's a play that I saw
that's not making people miss.
A play that I saw that really, I mean, Toth just got destroyed, and it's an inside move, and Toth tries to push the guy to the inside. Well, the play is to that exact spot, and it's like there was not even a gap to try to make a guy miss. So they're just really
that was the -6 run, wasn't it? That was the really bad -6. Yeah, I don't.
And it's late in the game.
You can call a play call on that one. I don't know how Toth is even supposed to make that block.
Exactly, it's a bad play call for his skill set to ask him to do what he has to do to block that guy. But I'll tell you this: was the eye-opening thing for me, Moshe. Late in that game, right? It's the game you're trying to run the game out, and you're trying to run the ball so that Minnesota has to use a timeout. Well, they run the ball on first down and they get nothing. So now it's second down, and you're thinking they threw the ball to Brown and they have to stop the clock. But you're thinking you can't run the ball again because there's just nowhere to go. And you want to try to get a first down so that you don't have to punt the ball back to them. And that kind of the feeling of watching that is they can't run the ball. You almost are asking them to throw the ball, even though throwing the ball in that situation is not what you really want to do.
That's a fair assessment, and they really can't. And they're trying different things. I mean, not only did they throw the extra offensive lineman on the field and go under center, but they made Tank Bigsby active. I mean, they gave him a role in the running game, a small one, but a role. They made A.J. Dillon inactive. Bigsby had a nice 11-yard run, and then he had a second nice run. But guess what? Jordan Mailata holding, called it back. So that shows you right there that there's just a lot of different things that are not going right with the Eagles rushing offense.
Yeah, and, by the way, so this was the last series of the game. They ran the ball for 1 yard, Barkley up the middle. There was second down and 9 with 1:48 left in the game. It's second and 9. You're like, you got to run the ball, but they can't run the ball. So they threw a quick slant, and it was behind A.J. Brown. So now the clock stops, and then they throw the 45-yard pass after that, and they end up getting the first down. But then they get a -3 run, a 0-yard run. So trying to close these games out has been the big difference in a lot of these games.
Well, if you think about their last loss against the Giants, I mean, the crazy juxtaposition of who the Giants and Eagles are. In that game, the Giants got the ball back, right? They had the lead, and they got the ball back with 6-something left to play, and the Eagles never saw the ball again. And it was like, man, that used to be what the Eagles did. Now other teams, including the Giants, are doing it to them. Mm-hmm. So listen, I don't want to I feel like we've talked negatively about a loss. It's good. They're 4-2. They beat the Giants. They go into the bye. They're 5-2. And you say, hey, that's a pretty good record for a really flawed team.
They would be 6-2 with a win.
6-2. Yeah, 6-2. Yeah, you're right. 6-2 is a really good record. And, when they did lose to the Giants, we talked about this. The Cowboys lost. The Commanders lost. Commanders lost again this week, right? The Lions lost 2 weeks ago. I think that was the game in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. So nobody really took advantage of a very unusual Eagles 2-game losing streak.
All right, Moshe, let's flip it to the defense here and get some thoughts on that. Pass rush yesterday, I thought the hit by Carter was huge in that game because I think after that hit, Wentz wanted no part of anything. He made some terrible decisions. But the pass rush overall in the game yesterday, what'd you think?
I thought at times it looked good. Uche had that big sack in the fourth quarter. I mean, really, Ojomo had a really good sack in third down. It seemed like they had their best pass rush in the red zone, which is, if you're going to have a good pass rush, that's where you want to have it. Because honestly, the Vikings lost the game with their inability to score in the red zone. They were there quite a bit, didn't get as many points as they wanted. I do think the early hit on Carson Wentz rattled him a little, but not enough to change how he was playing. The guy was scrambling around the pocket and making, Carson Wentz type plays after that. I think after the second interception, we all thought, oh man, this could be one of those games like a couple of years ago against Commanders where he gets sacked 9 times and he fumbles 3-4. That game in the last year with the Eagles against the Cowboys, remember that when he was just awful, but he pulled it together. I mean, he made some really good throws in that game.
Yeah, listen, when he was bad,
catches that pass.
Yeah, when he was bad, he was really bad, and when he was good, he was you were like, wow, there's a little bit left in the tank. But the rollout throw, the interception to Makuba was horrendous,
awful, just and especially that I think it wasn't second and 17.
Yeah, it's
second and 17. What?
It was second and long.
What play? Yeah, what play were you expecting on third? That's where, you're thankful Jalen Hurts, for as much as he might be criticized, he's never, not only does he not put the ball in harm's way very often or even on first or second down, but on that play, they're just going to run it with Barkley up the middle and then punt.
Yeah.
Live to see another day.
Well,
I don't know what Carson was thinking.
And that's after he threw the interception that got returned for the touchdown. He then follows it up with it's second and 27 at your own 9.
Right. Right. But, so yeah, why are you trying to, on second and 27, you're looking for like the 8 to 10 yard pass so you can cut that distance in half and hopefully give yourself a third and, 12 or 13 that you might be able to convert. You're not trying to do that kind of crazy stuff, but that's been the stuff Carson Wentz has done all throughout his career. And, has he learned from it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But to answer your question, I do think that the pass rush wasn't great and it wasn't vintage Eagles. It was just timely, right? With Jalen Carter had played a great game. He had some really nice pass rushes, some good quarterback hits. And then the Uche sack and the Jomo sack were very good too. But in total, that fourth quarter was a little nerve-wracking because there were times where Carson just had time to make play and did.
Give me your thoughts on Brandon Graham and this whole thing. I mean, at first when you heard it, you're like, this can't be real, right? And then it's been confirmed that, yes, they did reach out to him. I mean, do you see Brandon Graham as a help?
Reach out to him is a funny term because the guy's, as I understand it, is basically in the building working out every day. So if reaching out to him means how he went downstairs or he went upstairs, which you can absolutely see. But look, I mean, I'm a little conflicted on this one, man. Having known BG ever since he was drafted and, developed a rapport with him, I always want the best for him. And I don't want things to happen for nothing can take away the 2 Super Bowls. So even if he just doesn't do anything and comes back and isn't a good player, it's not gonna really matter for his legacy. But you remember the third time around for Jeremiah Trotter, it wasn't a good situation. He didn't play well. I don't think he got along with the way the coaching was going on, and it just it came and went, and it never really did anything. Brandon's 37 years old, and he's just had the same triceps repaired twice. So I put nothing past his abilities or who he is, but I Father Time is undefeated, right? That's the famous expression. I just don't know what he'll be able to do. I don't think it's a great solution for what the Eagles are missing. It's a good body to have, and he adds to the depth. But if we're really talking about the Eagles being a fearsome 4-man rush again, then they'll probably have to trade for someone if someone's able to be traded for, or hope that Nolan Smith just comes back on a tear.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering is, even if he's like the Brandon Graham, last year, though, he did a good job. I mean, he did, he was stout against the run. He sets the edges pretty good. But this team, against the run yesterday, did a pretty good job. They just need pass rush still.
Yeah, they do. They do. And, they did do a good job against the run.
Yeah, I thought so.
What they were doing. Yeah. I was going to sort of say, hey, look, they didn't have Aaron Jones, and it seems like I know I've heard the argument if there was a different quarterback out there, then maybe the game's different. But I would say, well, who's the quarterback?
Yeah,
And,
well, listen.
if JJ McCarthy's out there, I'm not sure that the Vikings are in a better spot or the Eagles lose. But I mean, that's the quarterback that the Vikings have.
Yeah. What about Dean and Campbell? That dynamic. What do you take away from that?
Well, Campbell, Dean played. I didn't see the snap. I meant to look at the snap count. I forgot what it was. I know he had 6 tackles. He played a little bit because you were able to move Campbell to the edge and put Dean in there because they were thin at edge. And then, of course, Ojulari getting hurt. So I think that created a natural avenue for Nakobe Dean to be able to get in there. And, I had 6 tackles. Like I haven't really watched every single defensive snap. I don't know if anything really stood out by it, but it was good to see him get back on the defense. And certainly now Vic has
He played 31.
optionality.
He played 31 snaps.
That's good. That's on about half the snaps, I would think.
Well,
So,
I guess with that, okay, he's back.
Is that 31 defensive snaps or
31 defensive snaps? Yes.
Okay.
Special teams, he played another 3.
Okay.
Yeah, but my point is, they saw what they had in Dean, and now maybe they think they can give him more. Did they see enough from Campbell, and do we think that Campbell can be the pass rusher that they're kind of lacking? Because it has sounded like Vic Fangio has kind of insisted that he's not quite ready for that yet.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great question that I'm going to ask Greg Cosell in about 15 minutes when we do Inside the Tape, as we do every week on Inside the Birds. And then the defense version will be out Wednesday. We're going to go offense first, defense. But I will get the tape study from him, and everybody who wants to hear the answer to your question can get it from a better source than me on Wednesday morning.
Right. Well, we'll, of course, have football at 4 all week long, 4 o'clock right here. Mosher's back on Wednesday's show. The Eagles win yesterday, and obviously Jalen plays almost a flawless game. He had a perfect passer rating. They did not run the ball very well. The defense had some big stops to get the interception return for a touchdown. And you mentioned Moro Jomo sack late. Josh Uche had a sack late in the game. So a little bit of everything in this one as they beat the Minnesota Vikings. Geoff Mosher for football at 4. And check out all his observations over at phillyvoice.com. Thanks, Moshe.
All right, Mike, thanks.
All right, there's Geoff Mosher, everybody. Our football at 4 live on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, that is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. All right, coming up, Knicks Nuggets are on the way. Nuggets and I had a little lunch on Saturday.
I was aware.
We went
Saw
with wings. He got an order of wings. I went with an order of wings. Made a big trade.
Big trade.
Big trade.
Draft picks involved?
Nope, straight up. 3 drums for 3 flats.
All right.
I gave me a complete set of all drums, and it gave him a complete set of all flats. He's a great partner to go out and have wings with.
Now, how was it?
We had a nice time.
Scouting department doesn't need to be fired or none of that.
Well, it's funny because we went to a place that we had all been to. We were over at the Roost in Egg Harbor Township. We did our show there recently. But I did tell Chris, who we played golf with a couple weeks ago over there, and I said we were going to go get some wings somewhere, but the place was cash only, and I had no cash on me. The last time I carried cash on me was like 1998. So
it still serves its purpose.
Yeah. But we sat down, had a nice lunch, and then watched the Flyers.
That's right, the whole game.
Whole game.
All 3 periods?
The whole thing.
Wow.
Start to finish. So we'll do Nuggets on the other side. We'll get his take on that. Watch the Sixer game Friday night. The whole thing, start to finish.
Now that was Embiid played.
Embiid played about 20 minutes.
He looked good.
He looked outstanding. He had 14 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds in 19 minutes.
Yeah, see, we don't need him to score 45 a game anymore.
We only played 20 minutes.
I know, but going forward, does he need to?
Well, not if Edgecombe's going to score 26.
Exactly my point, right. Just
but
be out
Edgecombe
there.
was electric. Yeah, we'll see. They open up the season Wednesday night against the Celtics, and you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, Knicks Nuggets is on the way. Stick around.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
At 4:33, we're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook. Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Eagles beat the Vikings. How about the games at 4 o'clock yesterday, though? Giants, Denver. That game was on, and the Dallas-Washington game was on. They were on at the same time.
Green Bay, Arizona, that was back and forth a little bit.
I was watching all. I started with Giants Commanders at halftime. I think I left that game and went over to the Giant game. It was like 28-6 when I tuned in on that one. But two fun games in the second half yesterday. Giants lose, epic fashion, and Dallas beats Washington. NFC East has a little different feel, different look all of a sudden. It's time for the Nuggets now. They're brought to you by the Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. Nick Earnshaw is the host of the Shift podcast, and, of course, he is the producer for the Locker Room weekends on 97.3 ESPN and his Earnshaw Radio tonight. At what time, Earnshaw?
9 o'clock, 9 p.m. tonight on the YouTube channel X, all the platforms.
On all the socials. Check him out. All right, what do we got today?
All right, so had a great time on Saturday. We had the locker room. We had hanging with Henning, and then we got some wings, made a great trade. I heard you before the break. There was some great trades made. It was even trades. It's funny. They gave you the exact amount of drums to trade with me with the flats. They gave me the same amount of flats. So it was like 3 for 3, all flats on Saturday. Fantastic. Can't beat that.
Straight up. It's a straight up trade. 3 for 3.
Yep, no kicker involved either. And no one had to eat any contracts like the Phillies are going to do with Castellanos during the offseason this year. All right, but with that, let's not talk about a little baseball. Let's talk a little football. Nugget number one, Jalen. He was fantastic yesterday. All right, 4 passing touchdowns of 30 yards now on the season. He is second behind Baker Mayfield this year. Who would have thought? The guy apparently can't throw, according to some people. He had a perfect passer rating as well. And according to our buddy Jeff Kerr, he's like top 5 in every category since week 3. And that's really when the season starts. All right, the TD to interception ratio 5th, passer rating 5th, pass yards 5th in the National Football League. That was one of the best games Jalen, I think, has had in his career yesterday, Mike, and the numbers back it up.
I will say this. I didn't think he had a great first half. I thought he played
second
much
half
better
was
in the
fantastic.
second half. Absolutely. But I'll say it. I don't think it was like people were like, this is the best game. He had a perfect passer rating. I don't think he was great in the first half. You had 3 and outs. I mean, so he could have played better. I mean, there was plays to be made. In fact, I was texting with a friend of mine. I was saying I thought there was plays that he missed, plays that he was holding the ball too long. In the second half, he was excellent, though. But I'm not in the. Listen, I am not in the game of being critical of Hurts in terms of like I want to get rid of him or he stinks or Hurts is what he is. He's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I don't sit here and expect a guy who throws the ball 20. Look, he threw the ball 23 times yesterday. It's not like he threw 45 times. He's efficient. When asked, he responds generally. But I don't think he had a great first half. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think that was partly because of the play calling, right? As soon as they start going down the field, which you've been screaming for, it worked, right? You went down the field with Devontae Smith. You went down the field with A.J. Brown, starring a little bit more in the second half. That was much better. I thought the play calling was much better in the second half as well. And I think overall, statistically, this was one of his best games. Maybe the eye test doesn't tell you it was his greatest game ever, but statistically, one of his better games in his career, to say the least. And you know what I also love, Mike and Pete? They went under center. How about that? Jalen going under center instead of out of the shotgun a couple of more times yesterday. That was something I thought was very noticeable, and I hope they do more of that.
And they were forced to because of the Juergens injury.
Yep.
Pretty much. I mean, that really forced them to go under center when you have to have.
Mosher brought up the point about how Toth is not, he doesn't snap the ball all that well. He's not really a center.
No. So the fact that he had to go under center was forced his hand. It kind of worked out for him a little bit, right? Like the fact they were forced to go under center a little bit changed things up, and it kind of helped them. I would like to see them go under center a little bit more, just to see Jalen in that position.
Yeah, but it didn't get the running game going, and I thought that was, obviously a big problem And moving forward, as our unsportsmanlike moment of the day suggested, they got to get this running game going because I think ultimately if you can't run the ball, you will probably fall short of your goal. Because you have to even at the end of that game, they end up getting the completion on the 45-yard pass that seals the deal. But on first down they run, it's a 1-yard run. You want to run the ball again to make Minnesota take the timeouts. Instead, they have to throw the ball, and it's an incomplete pass. So now Minnesota doesn't have to call the timeout because it stops the clock. Can't have that. You got to be able to get some yards and then a makeable third down. Ultimately, hey, you run the ball, maybe you get 2 to 3 yards. You run the ball again, you get another 2 to 3 yards. Now it's a third down and like 3 or 4, and you put yourself in position to seal the game if you run the ball one more time and happen to kind of break one. But you got to make them use the timeouts. But they had no faith that they could run the ball, so they had to throw the ball to Brown, and then they had to throw the ball again on third down.
No, and that tells you how much the offensive line has definitely struggled this year. It is not the same offensive line as last year. They've been a little bit more banged up. They don't have Mekhi Becton in, and Saquon has not been able to get going. Like, we've been so focused on the pass attack, right? Like, that is struggled. It obviously struggled. And yesterday, it finally came together, but you're still waiting for Saquon to break one off, right? You're still waiting for him to get going, and that hasn't happened yet. And that's something to be concerned about going forward. Like, you need the run game to get rolling. That's how they won the Super Bowl last year. You're not going to do it the same way this year. If you want to get back there, you're going to have to pass a little bit more, obviously, because the offensive line is the same and other unmitigating factors, but they have to get the running game going. So I agree with that. And if the offensive line is continuing to be banged up, I don't know when it's going to get going.
Yeah, and what's going on with Juergens now? I mean, that's something I think is going to be keeping, something to keep an eye on there. Dickerson just hasn't been himself. They do have the bye coming up, man. You got to hope that they can get through this bye week, and that should,
And allow Howie Roseman to maybe make some calls, negotiate some sort of trade to get some help in here.
Well, he went out and got Fred Johnson. That was like him admitting, okay, we need some help at swing tackle or, that spot. I wonder if he's scouring to find an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, they need help on both lines, to say the least, on the defensive side and on the offensive side. So you better hope he's
see
making
if
a few calls out there.
Well, he might be Brandon Graham. I mean, I would imagine with all the reporting yesterday, it seems that that's a fait accompli that's going to happen.
Do we love that? Do we love Brandon Graham coming back? Is that enough?
Listen,
I'll take him.
I have no problem with Graham in terms of, like, if you –
Why would you have a problem? If he wants to come back and they need help on the defensive line at edge, what's the problem? Because they need help.
I guess the question would be, how much help do you think a Brandon Graham could really give you? I mean, what's he now, 37 years old? And that doesn't mean he can't play anymore. But what are you asking this guy to do? Are you asking him to come in and play 15 to 20 snaps? Can he give you the 15 to 20 snaps that he gave you a year ago? What kind of shape is he in? I don't know. Or do you need more? Do you need more than what a 37-year-old version of Brandon Graham can give you?
I think you need more.
Saying we need just a role player.
I need more.
My biggest thing
he does have a motor, though. That's the one thing that does not, go with age. If you have the effort.
Yeah, my biggest thing with Brandon Graham would be, can he bring some leadership to that locker room on that defensive side of the ball? But I think this team needs more than just a leadership guy.
Yeah, I don't think it's all about leadership. Like, yes, you bring him back. Obviously, it's BG. He's a legend. Has won 2 Super Bowls, been there, done that. He can give you probably 15 snaps a game, right? He's 37 years old. He's an Eagles legend. I get that. But I think they need a little bit more talent on that side, and they need more depth than just Brandon Graham. Like, they need a guy who could play way more than 15 snaps to make an impact on this defensive line. It's not like you have Josh Sweats of the world and those guys still on this team, right? Like, you're very young. Jalix Hunt, you are thin on the defensive line. So I don't know how much of an impact he makes on the field. I think locker room, absolutely. Remember, he's 37. What kind of shape is he in? Is he been staying in shape? Is he been getting ready to maybe come back? These are all questions that have to be asked. But it seems like with all the reporting out there that he will come back. And it's great. But I would like to see the legend go out with a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, I would like to see him retire, win the Super Bowl. They had the big press conference. It was emotional. Leave these guys be when they retire, Jeez.
Well, I think this is a little bit of him, though.
I think it's partly
that's
him.
what I'm saying. If he wants to come back, let him come back.
Yeah, I think
collect a paycheck.
Like Mosher said, he is in the building every single day working out. I mean, so it's not like I don't think he has it out of the system yet.
No, and you know, when you got a guy like BG who's fiery, competitive, wants to come back, I can't blame him. You know, he wants to come back, but he's 37. This point, I think they need a little bit more than just the BG to help them on the defensive side of things. Definitely.
Well,
Nolan Smith, hopefully
Nolan Smith will
He's
come
coming
back
back
after the bye.
Yep. Right.
So if you add a Nolan Smith and a Brandon Graham, Ojulari got hurt yesterday. I don't know what ended up happening with him, but he ended up leaving the game. Uche had a sack yesterday. Jalen Hunt with the interception. I don't know. I mean, do they have enough pass rush? Remains to be seen. Although at this point last year, we were wondering if they had enough pass rush.
It's true. Remember 2023, they added a couple of guys right during the season. Namakong Su. I mean, so the Eagles have added pass rushing mid-season before. I mean, this has happened. They've added rushers and interior guys.
You can probably say now that they probably misread Jalen Hunt, right? I mean, he just hasn't gotten going.
Well, they were acting like the guy was going to be, the next big thing.
Right,
and
so they totally misread that.
I misread it in that they thought this guy was going to be a star.
Can handle the load
now
of letting these guys walk.
This guy was playing safety in the Ivy League 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's where the Eagles are at this point. I'm sure they're going to continue to add through the deadline and get guys off the street because they've done it in the past. I wouldn't expect Ty Roseman to be asleep at the wheel with this type of situation that they have going on the defensive side. All right,
for sure.
Moving along, nugget number 3, the giant collapse. It's always a giant collapse with the New York Giants, it feels like. That was one of the most entertaining games against the Denver Broncos that I watched, especially that fourth quarter yesterday. Eagles play the Giants coming up this Sunday. It'll also be the first week of the Kelly Greens this year. Remember, they wear them 3 times, all against division foes. It starts this week. It's going to be aesthetically awesome to watch with the Kelly Green, Mike. But what did you make of that giant collapse yesterday? Now heading into this week against the Eagles in their Kelly Greens. Remember, Eagles are 4-0 in the Kelly Greens. They brought them back.
So yesterday I had to go pick my girlfriend up at the airport. So I was watching the game on the way to the Philadelphia airport. And I had stopped. I made a stop on the way. And I was just kind of sitting there and I'm like, man, a couple observations is the Colts are pretty good. I'm like, this Colts team, I feel like, and I was like, maybe the Giants are actually, and then no sooner did I look back at that game as I was watching that game and say, oh, my God, the Giants are losing this game. They're going to lose this game. And then the whole thing with Peyton getting the penalty, he's out on the field. It was just pandemonium. I mean, but I think the Giants definitely have a much better vibe around them. Obviously, the young quarterback has given them a spark. I thought their defense was going to be way better than it is. I mean, if their defense was what I thought it was, they might actually be 500 at this point right now. Their defense is nowhere near what I had hoped for them. That was a very entertaining game. But, how about Denver? In terms of getting back into that game, that was unbelievable. I mean, some of the things that they were able to do to get back into that game in the amount of time that they had, that was what was crazy.
Yeah, and Kevin Harlan said on the broadcast yesterday that NFL teams had won 1,602 consecutive games when leading by 18 points or more with just 6 minutes to go in the game. And the Broncos broke it yesterday. Of course, the Giants fall apart in the end.
That Kevin Harlan was... I mean, watching that game with Kevin Harlan was unbelievable. Oh, wow! I mean, some of his calls are just unbelievable.
Just electric.
He is calling that game, and he can't believe what he's watching.
No, I don't think anybody could watching that game. With less than 9 minutes to go, they start coming back. I had Bo Nix on my fantasy team, so I'm getting the Kevin Harlan, the fantasy update. It was great. It was great. And to see the Giants just falter and fail, it was great.
Dallas goes into Denver next Sunday, or this Sunday, I guess.
Denver's a good team, man.
Now, our guy Terrell's over here. He's doing social media. He's a big Broncos guy. He's got the Broncos on and everything.
Wow. Broncos, huh? How about that? Denver, little Bo Nix out there. All right, moving along. Before we get out of here, I got to talk Sixers. I got to talk Sixers. I'm getting excited again, Mike. I'm getting the itch.
Here we go.
I'm getting the itch for the nosebleeds again. I'm getting the itch. Let me tell you.
Opening night? Opening night?
I might have to be up there. I'm not kidding. I might have to be up there in the nosebleeds in my Joel Embiid jersey. That might have to happen because he is back. Played nearly 20 minutes the other night on Friday. I watched that whole game. I'm texting back and forth. You, Schweim didn't even care. He only tuned in when VJ Edgecombe missed the dunk. Not that he had 26 points or anything like that. He was fantastic. And I also want to say this. Ramona Shelburne had a point. Shout out to her for giving us some love on social media. She also highlighted on Friday on TV on ESPN about how Joel Embiid would fare after the game. So they wanted to see how he looked on the floor. And he looked fantastic. He looked in shape. He looked quicker. He looked faster. And he was explosive on the defensive side of things too. But after the game, how does he feel post-game, right? The next day, that's going to be a story throughout the season, every single game. I thought it was a very important point that she made this past Friday on ESPN.
Well, listen, he looked pretty good. He looked a lot trimmer. Obviously, that was a big thing. We wanted to see what his weight looked like. He looked like he lost, obviously, a ton of weight, about 25, 30 pounds it looked like there. So that was good seeing him. He had many times where he got rebounds and then started to break and then just kind of led them up the court. That was, just to see him out there and being healthy was the key to the whole night there. But I think, as I tweeted out at one point in reflection of the game, just kind of sitting there and wow, and obviously Embiid's health is the number one main. They have to have him healthy, otherwise you're not. Nobody is winning a championship without their MVP. If you have an MVP level player, that's why you can win a championship. You take that guy off the floor. You're not winning. No team has won. It's not like the Braves when they lost Ronald Acuna and still won the World Series. That doesn't happen in basketball. You lose an MVP level player. But I hate to tell people, I said, that I think the Sixers are going to be very good as long as Embiid is healthy. And that's as long as he's healthy. If he's not healthy, this all goes out the window. But if Joel Embiid plays 55, 60 games, I don't even really think they need a healthy Paul George. But if he is healthy, they could be really, really good. But so much movement in the offense, dribble handoffs, athletic guards who can create, and they now have some athletic guards that can take the pressure off of Joel. It's not just a bunch of guys standing around. They got young, athletic, active guards that now are just constantly moving around Joel. And listen, it all is Joel's health. It all centers around that. But from what I saw the other night, there's no reason for me to say he's entering the season injured or banged up or not healthy. Last year, even when he was on the floor, he shouldn't have been out there.
No, he looks much healthier. He's moving. That got me very excited. And
Wednesday
it's all
night,
about his health.
That's a winnable game. Boston, they don't have Tatum anymore. They don't have Horford anymore. Holiday's gone. That's a winnable game, man. I'm expecting a win on Wednesday night.
Oh, open up the season 1-0, Peachy. Maybe I'll see you in the nosebleeds on Saturday.
Yes.
Listen to
I'll
the
see you
game
in the
right
nosebleeds
here
on Saturday.
On 97.3
Get me tickets. I'll go with you.
Wow, you're going to game with them?
I will.
Let's do it. I'm with it. I'll text you. See you guys.
Today's Nuggets. I'd like to see you guys go to that game together.
In the nosebleeds.
Yeah, why not?
Why not, man?
We're looking at tickets for the Sixers-Warriors game.
Ooh.
Out in San Francisco when the Super Bowl's out there. The cheapest ticket was how much? $132?
118?
118. You okay with that?
Hey, Steph Curry.
There you go.
Yes.
Steph Curry, Joel Embiid. All right, when we come back, Grayson's grades. Scott Grayson grades the Eagles win. Who passed? Who failed? Stick around and find out next on the Sports Bash.
Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
All right, final hour of the show. We're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook. It's pretty crowded here today. What's going on?
Game 7.
Game 7, that's why. 2 Monday Night Football games, that could be why. And Game 7. And the Flyers. NBA opens tomorrow night. You can listen to the defending champion Thunder and the Rockets right here on 97.3 ESPN tomorrow night. Sixers open up on Wednesday against the Celtics. Eagles win yesterday, and it is Jalen Hurts. We'll look at the grades, Grayson's grades. Coming up with Scott Grayson from Fox 29. Grayson's grades are posted after every Eagles game over at 97.3 ESPN.com. And he joins me right now for another edition of Grayson's grades. And, of course, the Eagles, I don't know, what was the grade in the first half of the game, Scott?
Well, the first half wasn't bad because they forced that pick six. They had, the touchdown on the opening drive, which they weren't making that play earlier in the season. When Jalen Hurts has broken the pocket, he's always looking, it seems, to run. And it's like, what made Russell Wilson so good with the Seahawks? He kept his eyes downfield. And that's what I've wished that Jalen Hurts would do more of. And he did on that first touchdown to A.J. Brown. He gestured to him to go down the sidelines. He left his defender behind him, and he made a perfect throw to him. The first half to me wasn't a perfect game by far, right? There's still things to clean up, but it was steps in the right direction that I saw on all sides of the ball. Nobody dropped the kickoff. I mean, at least there's that.
They had two new kick returners this week.
Yeah, they understand there's, if they want to keep that job, they got to catch the ball. But, so it was a solid effort. They had energy. They had all the things they didn't have up in New York against the Giants. And to me, it was an encouraging step in the right direction.
Well, taking a look, because I will say, you mentioned the touchdown to A.J. Brown. Also had 3 3-and-outs in the first half. I mean, and the end of the half, I don't know what the heck they were doing at the end of that half. So that was a whole mess. But the first half, if you just watched that game and said this was the game, you would say, oh, my God, this offense is a mess. Nothing's fixed. It's still going down the wrong road. And then the second half kind of happened.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. Some of the second half success, I think, happened by accident, right? And I doubt any of them will admit it. But when Cam Jurgens goes out and Brett Toth comes into the center position, he can't do the shotgun snaps. They're abysmal. They're awful. So they had to go under center more. Well, why did they have success in the second half? The players were talking about it after the game. They were doing more under center. Play action becomes a little bit more. It works better. There's a lot of things that function out of that this team just doesn't do with Jalen Hurts. It's always out of the gun. So I think they stumbled on some success by accident. Now, if anybody over there is paying attention, they had success earlier in the season when they went to a no-huddle offense. I don't know why they aren't doing that now and then more frequently. They've now had a little bit of success going under center. Will we see that continue at least maybe a little bit more? The biggest problems now still exist in the running game. This offensive line, which this is not making an excuse, but they have not started a game with the same 5 guys and ended it with the same 5 guys. Whoever they start with, somebody's getting hurt and banged up, and now that communication on the line, that chemistry on the line, the idea of knowing exactly what the guy next to me is going to do when the defense does this, not there. And I'm not, again, making excuses for them, but they need just a little bit of consistency on that line to perhaps try to find some answers to get Saquon Barkley going, because that's the one piece of the puzzle you're still missing.
Right, let's start with the grades. The guys, Hurts, Devontae, A.J. Brown, those guys got the A's in the game. You gave Nick Sirianni an A. What did you like about his role in this game?
Like I said, they came out with energy, right? They just suffered 2 bad losses. I was in that locker room after both of them, and particularly after the New York Giants loss. Those guys were angry. Sirianni had a job to do bringing these guys back together to get them to get back on track. And that's not an easy thing, I think, for a head coach to do during the week. We don't see it. It's behind the scenes, but it starts with having energy at practice, having the guys all going in the right direction and feeling like, hey, we know we had some things messed up here. We all, including you guys, have to fix them. And I thought he did a good job of, during the week, having this team ready to play. Better, obviously, than they did going into the Giants game, and maybe to a little bit of an extent, the Broncos game. So, this was I talked about it with Billy Schweim on the weekend. This was a big game to me. This was a huge game because there's a big difference between 4-3 and 5-2. And if they didn't come out and do what they needed to do here, I think they were in real danger of potentially starting to lose some guys in the locker room, going back down that 2023 road.
Oh, I agree. We were talking about this with Sal Pal on Friday, Scott, and I said, this is kind of a make-or-break game. I didn't think it was a must-win game, but I thought you had to look good. Like, you had to be aesthetically pleased. You had to have the offense feel like we've at least taken a step in the right direction. And if we didn't win the game, it's 38-35, but at least we did our part. Because it felt like that the offense was starting to feel like we're not holding up our end of the bargain. I want to get your thoughts, though, on what Lane Johnson did or did not say after the game. He said, I don't want to talk because I don't want to cause a divide. I mean, does that feel like there's still something not right, or is he just kind of saying that in jest?
Lane's an interesting guy. Normally he's a guy, what he did last week, he told you exactly how he felt. It's something I respect a lot about him and other players like that. Jordan Mailata is a lot like that. Brandon Graham was like that. Jason Kelsey was like that. They'll tell you exactly what they're thinking, and they don't care what people, may think about what they say. If they're speaking the truth, they stand by it. I thought Lane spoke the truth. I thought he said things that needed to be said, frankly, last week. And
I don't think anybody had a problem with what he said. I think he was just saying, I don't want to do that again because, I don't want it to get blown out of proportion.
The problem I have with that is you're one of the captains, and, I don't like it when A.J. Brown doesn't speak. You're one of the captains. You're a long-standing veteran here. You've won multiple Super Bowl rings here. Few players can say that. People want to hear what you have to say. And I think after a performance like that would be a time to stand up and speak and have some things to say. Because I think people do listen when he speaks. Not just fans, but players as well. And so it's a little troubling and alarming when Lane does that. But listen, I understand it. It's not something that I think he particularly enjoys, speaking to the media a whole lot. The big group of us, if you can get him in a one-on-one situation, I think you'd have a much better conversation with him. And honestly, I think he'd be more comfortable. But I was a little surprised that he chose not to speak after that game.
Scott Grayson's grades are up at 97.3 ESPN.com. What about Kevin Patullo? You gave him a C, and now everybody else in the offense got an A. Why the coordinator in the middle of the pack?
Like I said, maybe I'm a little biased. I'm not really buying in yet on Kevin Patullo. I've been disgruntled by the fact we've talked about it before. There seems to be very few halftime adjustments, and I think I am operating and gave the grade based on the fact, as you talked about in the first half, the way things were, that the second half, they got lucky and stumbled on something that worked by accident that looks like an adjustment. I'm not sold that whole under center thing was like Kevin Patullo going, hey, I have an idea. Let's do this. And off they went. See was, the way that the passing game operated. He obviously had to call those plays. Sure. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith all had to execute. The line had to block well enough to allow those pass plays to happen. So there's some good things there, but I need Kevin Patullo to earn a little bit of good graces over time. I need to see something a little bit more sustained. I need that running game to get fixed. One way or another, you've got to get Saquon Barkley going somehow. What they did yesterday, you can't expect that to happen week in and week out. And I think that's what I'll be looking at Kevin Patullo for this next week against the Giants, who obviously had that offense figured out.
Well, one of the takes from a lot of the listeners today is if a competent quarterback is playing, you probably lose that game. Do you feel the same way?
Vikings games?
Yeah, yesterday. In other words, Wentz throws 2 interceptions, one of them for a touchdown, 2 back-to-back picks. That led to points. If they're playing against a team that had a little bit more competent now, I don't think Wentz. I thought when he was bad, he was really bad, but he had some moments.
He did, but here's what I liked about, Jalen Carter. I thought the hit he put on Wentz on that pick six, it's probably underappreciated. I mean, he legitimately popped.
Oh no,
Wentz
I
hard.
thought that was one of the moments of the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I don't think enough people probably noticed that. You see Jalen Hunt pick it off and go the other way. Why did that happen? I mean, Wentz got popped hard by Carter. That was a hard hit. In fact, I thought he might end up coming out of the game. And when he stayed in and threw that second pick, then I thought the Vikings might have been concerned about his ribs or something like that as well. You know, it's a fair question. Would a different quarterback have had different results? Look, I thought there were plays that could have been made. The T.J. Hawkinson touchdown that got called back where he had to dive, that was a bad throw by Wentz. He had plenty of room. He should have made a better throw so Hawkinson doesn't have to dive, and then you don't even worry about that. Now it's a touchdown. The sacks, the Eagles only got 2 sacks, but they happened at bad times for the Vikings, right? Late in the game, they're trying to make something happen, and they got to him. We know from being here, Carson Wentz will hold the ball and try to force plays not be there. And sometimes he looks amazing when he makes them happen, and then other times he just does not look good at all when they go the wrong way. And yeah, would a Josh Allen possibly have had a Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, I mean, we're talking an elite quarterback there. But, you know, Wentz did make some plays. He did make some throws on the run. He did make some things happen with his legs a little bit too. And
oh yeah,
it was a Carson Wentz game. I mean, frankly, that's what I expected from Wentz coming into the game.
Scott Grayson's grades. Let's go to the defense over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Obviously, we're talking a lot about defense. What do you think of, you know, the pressure that they got? There's some reporting about Brandon Graham possibly, you know, them making a call to him. So what does that say about the grades of the pass rush yesterday?
You made a face at me last week when I said that they might go looking at Brandon Graham. The pass rush needs help. There's no doubt. And I think the surprise retirement of Zadarius Smith has prompted them to go down this road a little bit even further with Brandon Graham. And look, when I saw Brandon,
have you seen Graham recently?
I have not, but I remember when we were at the Super Bowl, talking to him, being around him a lot leading up to that. I did not get the sense that guy was completely ready to up his cleats. So I didn't fully buy in that he was completely retired. I think if he was able to rehab that tricep completely in the offseason and have extra time like he has now, I expected him to be one of those guys who was like, I'm just going to stay in shape just in case. And the way that the Eagles' schedule is lined up, getting him for the whole second half of the year, to me, for certain packages, would be advantageous for the way this pass rush is right now. You throw him in on third downs, maybe some second and longs. You have packages for him. And then by the time you get to the playoffs, you've kind of got him, you see what you've got with him a little bit more. And that might end up giving you something that you obviously don't have right now, let alone the chemistry and leadership he brings to the locker room. And I said this last night on Fox 29, Mike. If you listen to players who were asked about Brandon Graham last night, and Nick Sirianni asked about Brandon Graham after the game, don't listen to what they say. It's what they didn't say that I picked up on. Not one of them, including Nick Sirianni, denied any of those reports that, oh, that's my dream, you know, BG's enjoying retirement. Nobody said that. I think this is definitely happening. I think the plan is to get him back in here this week, get some practices under his belt next week, practices during the bye, and perhaps after the bye you start seeing him, if he's ready, contributing to this team. I think it's going to happen. But the pass rush itself needs a lot of help, and they're just not getting home enough. And Jalen Carter being there yesterday helped. I don't think he's still quite 100%, but having him out there obviously was a lot better than not.
Yeah, I agree on the Graham. I mean, this thing, you know, once it gets to the level where Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are starting to put it out there, it's pretty much seemingly a done deal, I would imagine.
And again, nobody denied it yesterday. Nobody came out yesterday with the Eagles, associated with the Eagles, or even associated with Brandon Graham, and said, "Oh, this is not happening. This is just, you know," nobody denied it.
No, and you know, that's what I'm saying. Once it gets to the level where the national reporters, they're not putting that out there just because they got willy-nilly information. This seemingly is the route. Now, the question would be, is Brandon Graham enough, a 37-year-old Brandon Graham, enough to help this pass rush out? Do they just need a part-time – I don't even know what Graham would be at this stage. Like, he was pretty good last year. He was better than everybody anticipated. Then he ends up getting hurt. I thought where he was really good last year was against the run. Like, setting the edge against the run, I thought, was an area they're not having huge problems against the runner. They need pass rush.
They do, and no, he's not the answer. He's part of the answer in my mind. You are going to get Nolan Smith back. That will help. I've got to believe, and we've heard reports of this too, that Howie Roseman is working the phones, that he is, trying to find another edge, trying to find another corner, which I can't stomach Keely Ringo out there much longer. This is just not easy to watch. And so they've got issues on defense they need to fix. And do I think Brandon Graham would help? Yes, I think he would help. Will he solve their problems? No, not by himself. They need some other pieces to come in, and I think that's where you look at the trade deadline. Yeah. And, again, you start getting Nolan Smith back. That'll help. Nakobe Dean giving more Jahad Campbell some reps perhaps on the outside a little bit more. That might help a little bit too, but they definitely need to make some work.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nate Dean got 31 snaps yesterday. I thought he played, pretty well. Like he was active. He made some plays. I think he had 6 tackles. And I guess if he can give you more, do they feel more like, hey, if we get a Brandon Graham and a Jahad Campbell, that adds a little extra that we haven't had? And then Nolan Smith is also due back.
Right. I think that's all part of the equation. And I think what I loved about Nakobe the best yesterday was I was reminded of how quickly he dissects a play and goes and makes the tackle for loss he had. Might have been one of his first tackles in the game. He shot a gap and took a running back down in the backfield, and it was vintage Nakobe Dean last year. And I thought that was really positive and reassuring to see in terms of where he's at and how healthy he is now post, his injury. And I think he is going to allow this team to become more versatile. I think this defense is going to start finding its way slowly but surely with the additions that are coming, the guys getting healthier post-bye week where they can also get a little bit healthier and not be so banged up themselves, and just a little bit of help in that secondary. I think they're close. I think they're close as a defense. They just need more of a pass rush to be on those quarterbacks so they can't sit back there, and find the time that somebody breaks away from an Adoree Jackson or a Keely Ringo.
All right, Scott Grayson's grades are up at 97.3ESPN.com. After every Eagles game, you can get Grayson's grades, and they'll grade the New York Giants are back in town. Just 10 days ago, they played the Giants, so they'll be back in Philadelphia this weekend. Coming off a heartbreaking loss are the Giants, and you can listen to that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. But they get one yesterday. It's a big day for Jalen Hurts and the 2 receivers, but they got to get this run game going, man. They got to get the run game going.
They do, and I'll tell you what, man, this is an interesting one. It's amazing how much things change in 2 weeks, right? The Eagles come off that Giants loss, look like the wheels are coming off the wagon, right? And the Giants are gaining momentum, and then they collapsed yesterday. Dable's like breaking chairs in the locker room, and now they're going to come back here, and the Eagles, it's a funny game, man. It's just a funny game, and I can't wait to see how the Eagles come out and look for some revenge next week. I think it should be fun to watch.
Well, and I can't, who would ever imagine a scenario this particular season where the Giants could come into Philadelphia and win a game? Okay, you got one in on a short week, all right, and give them credit. They kicked your butt in that game. But for them now to come here to win in Philadelphia, that would be an eye-opening situation if Philadelphia lost a game on their home field against this team after you already lost to them once. You get swept by the Giants this year, that's
a problem.
Yeah, that would be a problem. All right, read all the grades over at 97.3ESPN.com and check out Scott Grayson, as always, on Fox 29 and right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, Grayson's grades over at 97.3 ESPN.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, we got so much more to go, including the Eagles with the win. But what was the most impressive part about the win? We still have a lot of text messages from throughout today's show that we haven't gotten to yet. So we'll try to rip and read through those and react. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Eagles' reaction to yesterday's win. What stood out the most? What, good or bad, impressed you the most or still doesn't have you sold? Did that win offensively yesterday make you say, the offense has turned the corner? I want to hear what you guys think on that as we continue on live from the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Of course, we're here every Monday. And coming up We'll read your text messages, 609-403-0973. Grace's Grades brought to you by Bridgeton Auto Mall. Are you ready to score your next big drive? Head straight for the end zone at Bridgeton Auto Mall. More Sports Bash coming up. All right, 5:28. About a half hour left to go. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. What's the one thing about the game that stood out the most to you? 609-403-0973. Eagles win. What's your takeaway of, hey, they won and this impressed me? Or do you have still more questions? Because I'll tell you what, and this is one thing that I think is fair. Eagles fans want to win a world championship, another one, and that's not out of bounds to have that goal and hope this season. So you should be looking at big picture. And when you look at the big picture of this team, what do you take away from that game that makes you feel like, you know what? This happened in that game, and that makes me feel a lot better. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We got a lot of text messages we never got to earlier in the day, so we got a bunch of them. We'll read and react to them now here to close out the final portion of the show. Josh, what else we got?
Well, what else we got is I just turn on my camera, so that might help.
There you go.
You gave me a little quicker than I expected there, so that's my bad. It's a bad job by not being
powder.
ready.
Smell baby powder?
No, I don't smell baby.
Baby powder?
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy.
I do smell some winning though over there.
Whoa.
A lot of people.
There you go.
Today. Yeah, I just got a whiff of like baby powder.
When was the last time you smelled baby powder? Not
Almost.
Pete, Mike.
I don't know. I mean, it's a distinct smell. When
It's a
someone's
very
got baby
distinct
powder.
smell. That's why I'm asking.
So I could have smelled it 10 years ago. I'd still remember what it smells like.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just kind of smell like baby powder.
It just hit you.
Yeah, I feel like it. Well, we're in the casino,
There's a lot of smells.
A lot of smells.
Well, let's start with Paul in Pleasantville on the text board at 609-403.
What do you got, Paul?
He says, I disagree with Chris Candy. The Eagles were never a team that won the same way week after week. Every win has been different for this team over the years. No two wins have been the same. They find different ways to win because winning is the goal and not playing a certain style of football. That's from Paul in Pleasantville.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, last year they won a lot the same way. They ran the ball, they would run, and then they would have a lead late, and they would run the game out.
That was their identity, yeah.
Right, their identity was
play.
they would get a lead and they finish it with the run game.
Yeah, they basically were like a boa constrictor, and they just strangled your ass and just sucked the life out of you.
Right.
At the end of those games, they ran, and then Saquon would hit a big long one, and that would just put you up 2 or 3 scores to where the other team, and then they get the ball back, and then they would 7 minutes left in the game, and then they just run the game out. So now they're not running the same exact way, but that was kind of what their style and identity was last year was. And then when they needed a big play, they kind of dialed up, their 2 guys, AJ and Devontae. They're not doing that this year.
No.
Are they going to – right, do they have to change – well, have they changed their style of play, I guess, or are they going to have to do that?
They're going to have to figure out how to get this run game going.
Yeah, right. Do they want to change their identity from last year?
No, I think it's apparent they want it to be similar to last year. That's
Right.
why they kept trying to run the ball, and they just can't.
So they're going to have to probably look to change it.
Is anybody else concerned by the fact, like Candy said, that if you can't run the ball, if you can't get that going, then you cannot win a Super Bowl?
I mean, I'm definitely concerned just
Yeah.
because of the fact that this team – for basically a decade has been built through the trenches. This is the first time I can remember in a very long time that the trenches are not the strength of this team anymore. And if you have a team that's built on, hey, we got great defensive and offensive line play, and then all of a sudden you don't have it, to me, the struggling run game is just one symptom of that problem.
The struggling run game is definitely a hallmark of the problems that they have. If you were to say what are some of the problems, that run game is at the top of the list.
Now, being 5-2 and having to fix that, that's better than, being 4-3 like Grayson alluded to.
Well, the question is how many people out there think that the run game is fixable if this is your offensive line?
Yeah.
I don't think it's fixable as long as this team doesn't add more depth to the offensive line. They got to add at least one more dude whose name is not Brett Toth.
Yeah, they got to figure out the center spot. They can't play Brett Toth there if Jurgens isn't healthy.
Somebody did text in earlier. They didn't leave their name, but I'll just repeat it to you guys. Someone was asking, whatever happened to Kendall, the rookie they drafted? I mean, they kept this guy on the team, and they're not playing him at center. Like, I wonder why that is.
He's been inactive.
He's been active every week.
Well, there's your answer. Where is he? He's inactive to that guy.
I mean, what does that say, though?
It says that they think Toth is better, or that they don't think Kendall's better than Toth, I would imagine.
Is Toth better, or are they just in love with him, and they just like him, and he's their guy, and all that kind of stuff?
Well, it could say that Toth has more versatility than Kendall does. Maybe in a spot where Jurgens isn't available, maybe Kendall would be the guy. But in a game in relief that they figure Kendall only plays center, Toth does both. So on game day, you're active. But if it's an injury where you can't play, maybe Kendall's the guy that they go to. Now, the question would be, somebody asked, why not play Dickerson at center and put Toth at left guard where he feels more comfortable?
I don't know why you would want to weaken your left
one
guard
position
spot.
for the other, yeah.
That was like the Super Bowl question.
Well, my point is you don't want to, but is Toth better at left guard than he is at center? You know that Landon Dickerson is going to give you a better effort at both spots than Toth. So put Toth where he feels most comfortable.
I just don't understand the Toth obsession. Like, we heard Sirianni's presser today earlier, and he was like, Brett Toth's done a great job for us. And, like, nobody in their right mind thinks Brett Toth done a good job except for Sirianni.
Listen, he's one of them guys that, like, he went to Army, he probably works hard, but he just doesn't have the talent. I mean, they got to get a – but we're talking about Sirianni here. Again, I go back to Stoutland.
Yes.
You think Sirianni is telling Stoutland who he wants to play left guard?
No, and that's why maybe someone needs to walk into Stoutland's office and, with a bottle of, whiskey or something and put two glasses on the table and say, we need to have a conversation.
I mean, this is like one of those things where either Stoutland's saying I don't have anybody better, or he's very loyal to Toth.
Yeah, I think there's a little too much loyalty with this Eagles team at some time with some of these positions.
I would, yeah. I mean, especially with Patullo, too.
Well, I mean, that's Sirianni's boy.
Yeah.
Remember when Sirianni missed time for COVID years ago? Who was the interim coach running the team that we could practice? It was Kevin Patullo. It wasn't Steichen. It wasn't Gannon. Now, at the time, we all looked at it as...
You see that a lot, though, when...
Right, we usually see a guy who's not a coordinator.
Right, they don't generally give it to a coordinator. It's usually like a guy who's a lesser-known guy because he doesn't have as much to do on game day.
Right, but it was interesting that it wasn't like Stoutland or it wasn't some other position coach. It was the pass game coordinator. Like that should have been a clear sign early on that Patullo, where they were setting him up for something at some point.
Well, I mean, he's been with Sirianni for as long as he's been here, right? He came here from day one.
They were together with the Colts as well and the Chargers.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, listen, I don't begrudge a guy for being comfortable with a guy, but that doesn't mean he's the best option.
I said it on my show, Hanging with Hennig on Saturday, multiple times. I said, listen, we all have friends. We all have guys that we like to hang out with. We like to go out and have a drink with. We might, invite him for a birthday party. Might ask you to help him move. But those people are not always people that you want to work with. Patullo might be Sirianni's boy, but let me tell you something. I don't know about you guys. I got friends I would never want to be in a professional situation with.
You're not going to be a third down and 8 when you got to have it.
He's not going to be there. He's going to be probably distracted by something,
I mean, I'm not buying into Patullo yet. I think when you still have these players coming out after the game saying that play's been there for us all game long.
Right.
Smitty saying, I called my shot, basically. That's a direct reflection on Patullo.
I will say this. Part of being a good coach is being able to take the input from the players and making the adjustments based on that. So I'm going to give him credit for that. If the players are going to him and saying, hey, man, X, Y, and Z, okay, I'll take your stuff under advisement and I'll implement it.
True.
Instead of turning a deaf ear to them and being like, I don't care what you guys say. I'm going to call the game the way I want to call a game.
Cole from LBI's got a text here on the text where he says the reason why the Eagles' offense is inconsistent is because they are too reliant on big plays. Half of Hurts' yards came on 3 to 4 plays on Sunday. When those plays aren't available and they can't run the ball, the offense will look like it did the past 2 losses.
I mean, you can't depend on the big play every single week. I would agree with that. The thing that makes me feel good about the game that I saw yesterday is that those plays are there. They got a chance, and they weren't like the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown is nothing complicated. It's just a simple inside route. I mean, just gets inside position in the seam, and the throw's right where it needs to be. So, yeah, these big plays, but they're not. It's not like a flea flicker.
Right. It's not some gadget play.
The play to Devontae Smith is the one big one that you can't depend on that every single week, but it was open last week and they missed it. In the Giant game.
Got another text coming in. I have to read this one. 609-403-0973. It's our former guy here at the station, Tyler, chiming in from Wildwood Crest. He says, what's up, Mike and Josh? It's been a while. Good win for the Eagles. Defense doing the bend but don't break. Still nervous somehow about the Giants after what happened the previous week. Always a pleasure to listen to you guys. Tyler and Wildwood Crest.
Think about that. That's it's funny. We were just talking about Tyler like a week or so ago, weren't we?
Yep. And then he appears.
Right?
He's like Joe Hendry.
Thank
you, Pete.
I don't get that reference. I know who Joe Henry is, but I don't know why that
Say his name and he appears.
I don't know what
That's
that
his
means.
gimmick.
That's his gimmick. Every time anyone says his name, he actually appears everywhere.
Gotcha. Now I forget what the text was.
Bend but don't break
defense.
Worried about
Still
the
nervous
Giants
about the
game.
Giants. Yeah.
Oh, that was the thing. The worry about the Giants game. The fact that anybody can be worried about the Giants, I definitely think is an indictment on who the Eagles are right now. Like, you should not be – like, even if they beat you, you'd be like, all right, it was a short week, it's a bad night, and the Giants are getting better. But they should not be on the same level as you right now. Not if you think you can win the Super Bowl. That's a problem. Bend but don't break is what Vic Fangio's defenses are. That's the John Gannon, who everybody hated. Same defensive style. Bend, don't break, give up a lot of yards. Sticks, everybody hated those sticks defenses. You know, they play a lot of off. Now, Fangio has a better corner in Quinion than John Gannon did. I mean, you did have Darius Slay, but he wasn't like stud Darius Slay. He was good Darius Slay. Quinion's a stud.
Yeah, he locked down Jefferson yesterday.
He locked down everybody he touched pretty much.
Yeah.
There's only one play I can remember where he had a bad angle on Addison on that one play. That was it.
But the bend but don't break, that's the classic Vic Fangio style of defense.
BK from Virginia chiming in. We got people from Virginia listening.
BK, have it your way.
He says, I don't like hypothetical questions if there was a competent quarterback. Who's say the Eagles wouldn't rise to the occasion? And that's not the Eagles. That's every team. You rise to the level of the team you play against, says BK in Virginia.
True that. Game plan's different. You know, everything's different. I agree. Let's just say if Wentz is the same quarterback, he just plays better.
And they don't settle for field goals, you know, those.
That field goal that they had to kick to make it whatever to 19.
Right.
When Ojomo got the sack, that was a big play. That was a big play in the game.
It was
holding them to that field goal was huge.
And then later in the game, Keely Ringo almost takes Ojomo out of the game because he's reckless.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw, but the replay, when Wentz looks up at the two guys who collide above him, he has a look on his face and he's like, thank God that wasn't me.
Right. I got hit like that earlier in the game. I didn't need that again.
Right. I didn't need that in my life again. Glenn and Absecon has a follow-up text, guys, at 609-403-0973. He says, last year, Barkley was not contacted to the second level on the majority of his runs. He clearly still has quick feet. He just can't get out of the backfield because someone is always over top of him or near him on his runs. The offensive line is the main issue with the run game. That's very clear, says Glenn and Absecon.
The lanes are just not there. There's no question that, you know, he's getting hit in the backfield. He's got people pushing the lineman back. He's definitely doesn't have the lanes that are not there. And his, you know, ability to so many times like stop on a dime, make people miss, change directions, just not able to do it because those lanes are just not there.
But for the running game to fall off this bad, I mean, 2,000 yards last year compared to this year, I don't know. Something does not look right with Saquon. I don't know.
See, I still go back to the offensive line, because of the fact that offensive line was blasting holes last year. Like, there were times that you saw just like the three of us could run through some of those holes last year.
Right. So this year is what? Just the offensive line, play calling, Saquon.
Offensive line number one.
Mojo in EHC says, I think Stellan University is getting a big-time pass from a lot of people. I don't hear enough people talking about him aside from you guys, says Mojo in EHC.
I haven't given him a pass. I brought it up last week. I said, how about Stoutland? He's the run game coordinator, and this run game is buckus right now.
Eddie in Ocean City chimes in and says, Hurts threw 4 nice deep balls versus the Broncos a couple of weeks ago that got called back on 2 penalties. And remember, Dotson's toe was out of bounds and AJ slowing down on one. So he's basically saying that, it wasn't just yesterday.
The deep ball is there for them.
Yeah.
They have superior talent at wide receiver. I mean, that's one. Hurts throws a good deep ball. So that play is there. They got to pick their spots when to use it. You can't overexpose it, but it's there for them. So they should be able to pull it out. Now, going under center, can you do more play action to make that? Now, the problem is the run game, are you holding anybody in the play action? That remains to be seen. But the deep ball, Eddie, that should be a staple. Like, what's to say that, hey, a 20-yard down the field isn't something that we incorporate every single week?
It should be incorporated.
I'm not asking for a 75-yard bomb every single week, but you should still be able to take one of those shots every once in a blue moon.
Well, like, for example, if you go back and rewatch that play action, that one play action to Devonta Smith that went for like 45, 50 yards, that play was obviously scripted in a way that created an opening. Like, I was watching the breakdown from Dan Orlovsky where he was pointing out that basically Hurts threw to a spot and Devontae ran to him. Like you mentioned earlier about how many times did Hurts throw to a spot and not just to an open guy, and that's when they had some of the most success.
Well, the 2 plays they ran to A.J. Brown where he scores a touchdown on the one and then the 4th down play at the end of the game, that's just like almost like an improvised. Like, hey, just keep going and I'll lead you there.
Right.
Like those are the plays there where people, I think, wonder, is that a play that Petula called? Did they just kind of like start freelancing? I don't know.
That's when they had Fred Johnson as the extra guy, right? So they were expecting all-out blitz.
There were a couple times that
good coaching. Yeah.
They ran play action off of the 6-man offensive line where Fred Johnson would come in as a 6-man, and then Hurts wasn't just enough protection, but it was almost like he was in rhythm. Like he was like the play action helped him be in better rhythm.
But was he the 3rd man?
Good question.
All right, we got Bucks and Lions coming up at 7 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Texans and Seahawks, 2 good Monday nighters tonight.
Sam Darnold tonight.
Any Flyers
Baker
tonight?
Mayfield. Yeah, I'm going to have to tune into the Fly Guys. I got to find out what's going on with Michkov, man. The nickname for Rick Tocchet now, right? Rick Toccarella. Yeah.
Flyers tonight are over on our sister station, Rock 104.1. That's at 7 o'clock puck drop over there. Followed by Game 7. So that's going to be a tough clicker tonight.
It really
tough clicker
is,
tonight. You got 2 Monday Night Football games. Flyers, Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a workout.
Then we got the basketball starting up tomorrow night, NBC.
Wednesday, Sixers. You and Nuggets get your tickets yet for Saturday?
We're looking. It's looking like a possibility, I'll tell you that.
Wow.
Now, I want to do the full day in Philly, but Henning won't allow us.
Wait a second. The Flyers play at 12:30 on Saturday. Is that a home game?
Oh, I got to check. I would expect no because
I would say yes.
A lot.
12:30 Flyers, 7:30 Sixers, or no?
But, I mean, I'd like to do the whole Philly thing with Earnshaw, but Henning.
That'd be nice. Henning's not letting you?
Nah.
Oh.
I want to get the cheesesteaks. That game is 12:30 at home against the Islanders.
That is a home game, yes.
Wow.
Now you can sit there and watch the changeover. That's a day.
I can videotape it and put it on social media.
Oh, I used to do that when I was young, man.
Yeah.
Go to the 12:30 Flyers game, stick around for the Sixer game at night. Oh, that's a great day.
Watch the changeover.
Go to the Cure Center, Toronto. Oh, come on. Make it happen. Why are you bringing Berardis?
Yeah.
He's available, isn't he? Berardis?
I don't make these decisions. You're the guy who runs this place.
Yeah, well, ask Berardis if he can come in and work for the games. These guys can go party all day.
Yeah, why is this my fault? Why can't you guys do something? Pete, why don't you and Nick talk about it and see if you can find somebody to fill in?
We will.
Yeah, we just did. See
There-
if Berardis
yeah.
is available. Maybe Berardis is listening.
That's why it's a 7:30 tip-off, right?
That's why. Well, anytime you see the 7:30
Yep,
tip,
exactly.
you know they push
They
that.
need that extra half hour. That half hour makes or breaks it.
It does. You ever see that changeover? These guys are working.
Yep.
All right, we'll close out the show next. All right, getting out of here at Fanatic Sportsbook, everybody. If you want to, nice spot to watch both games tonight, plus the Flyers and the World Series. You can watch them all right here. They got them all at the same time. Plus UFC 321 this weekend, 2 o'clock right here at the Gallery at the Fanatic Sportsbook. I got a trade idea for you, Peachy. You making this deal?
Let me hear it.
Tarek Skubal for Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford, and Aiden Miller.
Giving up the farm for a
Skubal.
Cy Younger. Yep. I'm
doing
doing
it?
I'll do it.
Josh?
He's not going to do it.
Wow.
Too much.
Too much. I think the Tigers might have to trade Skubal. It sucks. That's what stinks about baseball.
They're going to have a stoppage.
You do everything you can to try to find that guy. When you finally get him, you have to trade him because now you have to pay him. What kind of world are we living in? See you, everybody.